on the lapel or whatever they can call it. It's pretty cool. Like it has a little magnet underneath it. So
yeah, I like them. You like the clips of the magnet? I love the magnet.
Oh, the magnet's so much more convenient. Yes. But I thought I had it fine. She's like, it looks terrible, Neil. Let me fix it for you. I'm like, okay. Oh boy. Tesla is a rocket ship, and it is absolutely rocketing without me. I'm the guy who played 25 to 28 and didn't get back into 28. So the only position I'm in, I guess I have to take a fill, and you'll see I'm still short AMD, which, spoiler alert, AMD stinks. So it's actually still a weak stock. What's interesting about today is you just did, here, let's start with the futures maybe. Tesla's a rocket ship. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about Tesla, I do feel like. The NASDAQ does a reversion. It was weak pretty much the entirety of the day. And then we get this nice break back out into VWAP. We break the trend. It's been all strong since, led by things like Tesla, as Satay was mentioning, Apple looking very strong, Amazon getting a little bit of a bid. But you know what? That doesn't include NVIDIA. NVIDIA is still down 2%, channeling at the bottom of the range. AMD always stinks. It's just chilling at the low. Hey, today we're short AMD. So I rectified the mistake of yesterday by saying, if this thing actually gives us a short, we're going to take it today. Silly not to have done it yesterday, but it is what it is. So not everything is, let's just say, kosher today. Broadcom's an absolute beast up at 22 bucks. So I just realized we're still on the old position board. They're not really showing ours just yet, but this market is green. That said, it's a very recent trend break that has led us there. I want to shout out to Satay, was looking at Palantir, which I think looks distinctly different from all the other times we've traded at this 75 range. You know, it's been an easy, like all week long, gets to 75, fails a break at 75, you can short it, but the difference here, you got a higher low, and we're retesting the high at the end of the day. We could still get this breakout trade just over 75 and a half. We still have a couple of hours to go here, so there's a heck of a lot to watch this afternoon. I know it's a Friday, and we're rallying into VWAP here. Maybe there's not a continuation. The caveat being, I know Tesla's going nuts, and there should be some opportunities there. You never want to overtrade, especially going into the end of the week. Be specific about the opportunities that you take. You don't have all day long for them to be able to work out for you. You know, that said, make sure you're in things that are actually going. This is my afternoon on Tesla. It's like, yeah, okay, that was flat because lost, then won, and then did not get back in. But look at it, it's really going. Maybe a mean reversion going to happen on Tesla, although my first look would be to try to buy it if it dips into the 430 level, which it could be doing right now here, Obi. Crazy move.
Did I just hear mean reversion?
You did.
Okay, all right. I'll keep my eyes open for that. Yeah, no, it's trending quite nicely. We see that we held some of this opening range high pretty well on the pullback in. And what does that happen to be? It happened to be, sure, it's not the cleanest of VWAP, but eventually you do reclaim VWAP and break out of this bit of a shelf here at that 428 for that continuation up into 434. So yeah, we're printing some fresh highs going into the end of the week. Once again, I'm curious to know. Well, yeah, it's already showing it there. It was distinctly different off of the open. While the whole market tanked, this thing continued to run up into the morning session and now during the midday session. And let's see if it does more of the same going into the closing session as well. But let's see what you guys voted for with the rundown. Yo, what's up?
Hey.
Tesla's.
Hey guys, it's your boy Joey Options. Sharif has the day off, so it's me today talking about the afternoon rundown, the stocks that you guys picked. Today, first on the docket is AMD, down a whopping 25% from that earnings report. Let's see what the big kahunas have to say about that.
I don't know how you expect me to focus on talking about this. What are you doing with the shoe game here, Joe?
Is it the socks?
No, it's just you're stepping up the game fashion-wise, and Obi does this at times too. And we have to deal with Raheem coming in every other week, where I just feel like I need to be dressing up a little bit better.
Yeah, hey, we're fashionistas around here.
It's winter.
Wintertime. Yeah, it's like how do you run those with like 2 inches of snow, bro?
It's not winter shoes.
They're not. We got to get the Chelsea boots out soon.
Some Timbs, man. Okay. Anyways. What are we talking about? AMD.
AMD.
So AMD, like if Joe, okay, so if Joe's gear and his Riz is up here, like AMD's is somewhere down there. AMD stinks. Everyone's been calling it advanced. What are we calling it? Advanced money destroyer. Okay, that's what we're calling it. And this channel, like I've been talking about this channel for a while, and I could, like I said, I could draw it more clean, but I'm lazy, and you get the idea. It's channel down, it's continuing to make lows, and I'm favoring short until either it breaks one of these consolidations, or closes above the channel and breaks out above the channel, or it just tries to bounce off the bottom, which is another $5 from here. As a day trade, it's not going to go $5 down this afternoon, or won't it? No, it won't. It's not going to. But like you got to VWAP and just gave you the VWAP trade. So I didn't trade it early because I thought we were going to go pop and fade today, but it did trend into VWAP and then broke trend and it's now rolling over. I'm looking at a 125 target. I haven't added to this one. If it gets to VWAP, I don't know if I'm going to like it as much, especially with this market starting to power up. But I think the bigger story is, like we said for the lesson of the day, you don't have to be, like, it'd be nice for AMD to catch a bid. And I understand that the moment that it does, it's probably going to be a lot of fun if AMD catches a bid again. But until that happens, forget about this channel. Even if you zoom out further, since it made the high back in March, what part of this isn't a downward trending stock? You know, it's just the whole time it's been one pretty much for the majority of the year since it broke that original trend up on the AI boom. It needs to show you that it's something different than what it obviously is in the chart. Now, if you have good reasons for investing it in the long term and you don't think it's overpriced and you want to be, that's fine. That's a different story. But for a trading vehicle, it's a short till it's not. And I feel like every single day that I like the short and I don't get it, then I'm mad at myself. And it's like, why didn't I get AMD when it's set up again? Or why didn't I get Intel when it's set up again? And you never want to be in that mode. When it's an obvious trend, you want to be able to take advantage of it. And that just means when it reverts, that last day, maybe you lose a day or two on the back end of it, and then it turns into a long. But that'll be fine because you would have banked all the time before.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely one to keep an eye on. Like today, I didn't even notice this thing is actually doing some decent relative volume. Again, we speak on some of the large caps when they do above 1.5 to 3 times relative volume. That is pretty. That's pretty significant there. And all of today, well, coming into around, I'd say 10, 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11 o'clock, you can see that relative volume has sustained a level of roughly 2 times here on the 5 period as we aggressively kind of sell off in the morning session, and no real reversion. Well, you do get a reversion to VWAP, which was pretty beautiful there. Definitely a missed opportunity on my part, but then can't really get above that VWAP. And yeah, taking a look at a higher time frame, just taking a look at an hourly chart, we can see that today we rejected on that VWAP bounce. We rejected some of these prior levels just underneath that 126. So yeah, this thing is. I think it was Sean that coined that term there. Advanced money destroyer, indeed, all the way from all-time highs at 227s. We've been in a pretty much a downtrend here now, coming into some of these lows from prior, not the most recent earnings there in November, but earnings from July there. The lows that we made off of those earnings down here at 120s, we're only about roughly 5 points away from them. What is going on here? Okay.
Well, before we go back, Mark, a member of our team, just came by with this is caramel popcorn and shortbread, which I'm going to share with my daughter. I'm just going to be honest about you with that because she will lose her mind over that.
It's from
who's it from? This is from Trade Logic. We got these.
Nice.
So I can tell my daughter this from Trade Logic. We'll leave this here so that everybody can get hungry. But there was a good point was having this conversation with Darwin, I do believe. So Rivian Millionaire was just asking, where do you see a bottom on AMD? I feel like sort of covered the things that I'm looking for with that channel. But then here, Darwin, tax loss selling on AMD, I suspect it will go up in 2025. And you're also talking technical. And I love this point. And before we move on to Tesla, which Tesla is, Tesla's Tesla. Starting to pull back a little bit, but still a strong name. You got to consider the types of names where not everybody would be down. Okay, not everybody would be down on AMD on the year. but a lot of the buyers that would have bought this year on AMD would be down. It's exactly the kind of name where you could be harvesting losses at the end of the year. And then on top of that, when it's got this channel going into a potential support level, like you have the opportunity. It's exactly the kind of thing that could get bought back up. Like people go back into that position and then buy it back into the new year. This would be the type of name that you'd prefer to do it on. Intel as well. Like why would anybody, and I know I'm jumping around here, but I think it's a great point by Darwin. Everybody that, if you're long at some point this year on Intel, this is Intel in January, right? Like, and then look at the trend downside. Okay, so the vast majority of people that have been buying this stock are probably underwater on it, right? Unless you could have weaseled your way into a winning trade. But like tax loss selling is going to keep it under pressure, I do think. And then if you're looking for a technical bottom or reversion, probably a better look at the end of, at the beginning of next year, I should say. Now we can go and talk about the bell of the ball.
Yes. Yes, great stuff. As always, guys, as mentioned before, AMD is lagging its peers. Broadcom putting in an absolute amazing day today, and AMD a little bit laggard. But on to Tesla now, folks. Up 76% post-Trump rally, absolutely continuing to trade higher, making all-time highs again today. Trading absolutely fantastic. Robo-taxi coming out in late 25. Looking forward to that. Let's see what the big boys have to say about Tesla.
Funny enough, you know what
good.
Brankles and I saw just outside, just across the road?
Cybertruck.
A Cybertruck. Yeah. It was pretty cool, pretty cool. It's pretty much, we were like, yeah, it's a tank rolling down down the road. And Tesla itself, you can see this price action. It is definitely a tank. Look at how it tanked the selling in the morning. It basically tanked all of that. It took absorbed, I mean, I don't know about absorbed, but the market was flushing aggressively to the downside. And take a look at this, right off of the open there. A little bit of a flush here, but we pivot off of 415s, which happens to be roughly prior day lows. That's where the bid kind of comes in yesterday at the end of the day there. Comes in right in and around that 415. So 415 was a low day yesterday. Today, 415.71. So about 70 pennies off of that one. And take a look at the bid we've been catching. Again, off of VWAP, reclaiming VWAP and slowly trending back up. Look at this volume that comes in through the break into the prior high a day. And now we're trading and consolidating above that 434.35. This thing is definitely a tank and continues to push higher and higher. And yeah, I see that you have the daily chart.
It's a monster.
It's holding the trend on the daily very, very well for the past couple of weeks. So absolute monster.
Yeah, like the trend on this, it's just explosive. It's explosive since the election. It's explosive since earnings. And if we're really, you know what, like this really started for Tesla. It was when it reclaimed 200, like that August bottom. And I feel like this, like, if you didn't get that, it was an absolute gift to get the 220s. Like, when it regained the 50-period moving average here at the 220, like, that's the last time I bought it. So I'm like, how could you not? But it was a complete gift when it retested that level again. And I tend to think there's going to be some profit taking in the new year on Tesla. People are going to wait until the new year, and they're likely going to do it. For the trade this afternoon, like, it just did a little bit of a pullback into the prior high, which is 431.5. I mean, I'd go over my Tesla trade, but it's like, okay, short win, short lose, lose long, win long, lose long, win long. It's a whole, again, I probably should have held this trade and probably should have got back in here, but that's because that's the best move right in there. That was the best one. But now that you've got this prior high, 431, I think I'm looking for it to trend maybe back down into this 430 to 431 area. Try to catch a bid off of that. That'd be the look, at least for me right now in the afternoon on Tesla. It's been a rocket ship. Obviously, when it catches a bid, it's just program buying at this point, and you want to get out of the way. The other name, which has been incredibly strong, it's like, how am we calling Tesla the bell of the ball when Broadcom's up 23%?
Yeah, good stuff as always, guys. Broadcom, we're going to talk a little bit about Broadcom. Up over 20% on the session as well, too. A miss on revenue, but that's okay. A beat on EPS. Hitting, as Brando likes to refer, the T Club, $1 trillion market cap on Broadcom. So continuing to trade higher and making new highs on the session as well, too, guys. What's going on with Broadcom?
We're making fresh highs right now, Neil.
Yeah, first thing, there was a question in the chat about WKEY. So it's halted down, and the tap is I see 575. I see it halted at 580 with the theoretical auction price at 575, which is very slightly down. So a halt down as it seems to have double topped here just underneath $7 and then gone to a down halt. This is like the 4th or 5th halt that it's had today. So it should open. Okay, it just opened back up for everybody that's in it or anyone that's looking at it. Opened just underneath that 575 that it was indicating and trying to get back above VWAP. So from that to Broadcom, which, you know, quite frankly, I never got the open trade that I was looking for. That's obviously it's a big miss. I think I got it right here. Like as it was coming back in, I was going long off 215 and elected that's not the right spot. It was still weak, and I don't think it had made a confirmation bottom. I was kind of just getting it on the bid, so I just got out. I'm like, oh, it's not the right entry point. But then that same price there, that 215, kind of set up a little bit later. I wasn't at my desk when it happened, but it is what it is. Like that's the spot. Like after I did the lesson of the day, like, it's confirmed up. I'm looking for that higher low or that VWAP low. Now it's just blowing it out. It's a blue sky setup on Broadcom because it's making all-time highs. And then you have to consider the type of breakout that it is on the daily. It held up here for a while. And you could go back to the pre-split. It's not a double top. It's like a quadruple top when you pull out that daily chart when it's split adjusted. So it's definitely on one. The fact that it did this kind of a pullback while still making it back into the high is nuts. And like Tesla, I think you want to look for a continuation play if you can. Like I wouldn't want to be fighting this this afternoon. You know, there's some stocks you probably just don't want to be shorting. This would be one of them, at least for now.
No, definitely. For now. I mean, the thing is, like we talk about some of the key levels here off of the open. Holds that VWAP, holds that 211 level. So almost this consolidation here. Breaks out of it, pulls back all the way down. Oh boy, and then bounces right off of another key level here at 213s for the push up, and that's the bid that takes us. Not only is that the bid that takes us back into high of day, it's the bid that breaks the trend, has us consolidating and holding higher levels on top of this 250 and 216 on top of VWAP, so a VWAP hold as well. Opening range high break as well in the later on in the day as it consolidates. So this consolidation breakout with expanding volume going into that flag that's built up on top of VWAP, and then that takes us into high a day there. So yeah, definitely a lot of missed trades on my part. I definitely was had decent entries in the morning for that opening drive for the push back up, and then took nothing, and then I pretty much tilted a little bit on the way back down. Caught the bid that did come in off of that 213, but pretty much sold it all for reversion into VWAP, but it continues here through those highs, printing 223s as of right now. Where will it stop? I wanted to take it to 225 in the morning session. I was like, oh boy, this thing looks like it can go, but here's the thing. The market has a mind of its own. It doesn't care what I want or what I think, and it's going to kind of do whatever it wants. And it came into some of those morning levels there, and then now it's kind of going for that 225. I don't know if it'll get there or not, like I said, but we definitely have a little bit of market tailwind as the market is also starting to turn with this lift back up into AVGO. So 223 is trading right now, pretty choppy. 5-minute bars are holding. Let's see how far this momentum can take us going into the close.
Broadcom is running like gout.
Gout?
Flying. You seen this video of this kid?
Gout?
Okay,
like,
he's like
gout as in like...
No, it's his name. He's a sprinter.
Oh, okay.
From Australia, I want to believe, and
Yeah,
he's like
actually, you know
it's
what?
all
I've
over.
seen a clip.
It's all over
Yeah,
social media.
Might have
He's like the next Usain Bolt. Everyone's
Yeah, that's he does like a 100-meter dash or something like that.
Yeah,
or?
he ran he's 16 years old. And he ran like 10:04, although it was wind assisted, but it worked out to like a 10:2. And I was trying to explain my physio guy, like, because he was all impressed about it. You pull up a video. If you know anything about track and field, this dude is absolutely. He doesn't even have good technique yet. He was overstriding and doing everything wrong in the second half of his race, and he's still dominant. He's going to be a freak. But you know what else is freakish and amazing? Trade the Pool allows stock traders like you to get evaluated and trade real shares using the company's capital with no PDT rule holding you back. Trade the Pool's just launched a limited edition program. For a one-time fee of just $300, you'll receive $80,000 in buying power and the chance to become a funded trader. Hit a profit target of just 4% and you'll start trading with the company's capital. Get funded faster and easier with the new conditions designed for success. And the best part, the profit split has been upgraded to a generous 70%, so you keep more of what you earn. Don't wait. Check it out now and see how Trade the Pool can help you trade bigger and better. Scan that QR code, click the link in the description, check them out, give them a shot, and then go trade some SOUN, maybe? It's not like
yeah, fantastic look on Broadcom. Guys, SoundHound, SOUN has been on an absolute monster tear for the past little while here. Now putting in new highs as well today, up a whopping 22% and still climbing higher, guys. Let's see what SoundHound can do for the rest of the session.
Yeah, so I'm not taking breakouts on SoundHound because that's just not the entry strategy that I want. And I did have the double top break earlier today. Like, it broke it out, it tried to go, it then kind of like instantly pulled right back underneath, so I jumped out, looked for another re-entry trade. Obviously, like, why you think it's going to get back to 15, Neil? That's complete nonsense. What I should have been doing, and let's be real, pull back into this area here. Like, there's your lower high spot, I think. Like, if you were going wide stop on that break, I think you'd be giving it to here anyway, so that should have been the dip spot. It pulls right back into 16 and is going. So now that it's through the high of the day, I'll probably just look for something in the 16.5 range for a dip. Like, maybe we fail. If we fail to get to 17, I'd look for a 16.5 dip. If we break 17, I'd probably look for a pullback into the prior high. It's going. It's a Friday. The market's going. But this is breaking out highs, and it's got a great look on it. And on the daily chart, remember, it also should have started with the daily chart, sorry. But it's breaking out on the daily, that double top. So I'm not going to chase it by I'm not taking a 17 break. I didn't just take the last break, but I'll look to try to join it when people are starting to come out of it and then look to buy the dip. That way you can get yourself hopefully a tighter stop and get a nice, more nuanced entry. But a great look for SoundHound. This has been absolutely flying, squeeze-ish type name. I think at some point it's due for a bit of a correction. But the last time it did this, it kind of sustained the move, gapped up, held, and then kind of did an orderly pullback. It's had a decent run on the most parabolic of days of finding a way to close near the close or close near the high. Like, you don't see too many of these ugly looking big green candles. It's got not a great one in here, but a lot of the times this has done a pretty decent job of holding its momentum when it has a big day like this.
Yeah, so what you're telling me, Neil, is that buying and chasing the highs is not a very sound decision. Maybe. I mean, it is kind of pushing up through those highs there, kind of doing a little bit of a breakout. But again,
I'll take it.
The hold above VWAP, the 15.5 holds, and then the pullbacks that sustain there, I guess were decent places. But this thing's been running since the open. Didn't even get a full-on a pullback all the way into VWAP. You can see how it just hovers, and the bid is there so much so that it can't even get all the way back down into VWAP. It's kind of hovering above and trending to the upside here on SoundHound. So let's take a look back and look for any sort of support and resistance level. So right there, right off the bat, 1603 shows up as a prior high from prior week right there. So you'll see what 16 kind of shows up as on the intraday right here. You can see that, all right, a little bit of a wash, but reclaim, but this pullback right here holding the 16. So I don't know how much that's really worth, but off of the initial push, we did get a nice little extension of about a 50 pennies off of that prior resistance that we're breaking out of now, and continuation happening here on SoundHound. Now, don't forget, we also have that market tailwind kind of pushing us into the later half, the closing session of the day as well. So we had that aggressive selling on the market in the morning session coming into the midday, and then now we're getting that. We've gone about a 50% reversion here on the NASDAQ, about, I guess, a little bit less than that on the ES. But some of these tickers that have been holding strong throughout the day are starting to catch a little bit more of a bid off that tailwind. Let's see if 17 comes in here on SoundHound AI. Don't forget, this is one of the subsidiaries of NVIDIA.
Yeah, beautiful stuff, guys. Now it's up to, I think, the current market darling Palantir. Danny Ives, Wedbush, says this is the Messi of AI, up over 300% year to date, putting up 20% this month. I called some exhausting volume here on Palantir, but still continuing to climb higher. Let's see what the big boys have to think about Palantir.
It can't be the Messi of AI. Because, and this is, and I know it's not your quote. I know it's not yours, but it's like Messi is at the tail end of his career, right? Like, make it Killian. I have no issues with that. But it's just like, okay, like Palantir's like the newer kid on the block to the NVIDIA move. So in the AI play, it's distinctly different. We're short this morning on Palantir for the simple reason that every time it's gotten to $75 this week, it's been a fade, right? So it gets to 75, fade. Gets to 75, fade. Gets to 75, fade. The obvious difference between each of these instances and today is, well, this time you're not holding off on the lows and holding on to the downward trend. This time you made a bottom and you are clearly uptrending back into this top. I don't know if it's going to break the 75, 60 top here. Like, that's the obvious long. But it's a very steady and orderly move up that I don't think I want to fight unless it shows the perfect setup. The perfect setup would be another break of 75 that tails the top, puts in a lower high, and just gives you a clean mean reversion back through the 75 level like before. Daryl Flinch, yeah, I mean Kylian Mbappe. I just said Killian. You know what? Killian's also the name of a villain in Commando, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I
haven't seen.
Is it Killian?
I've seen that one in the longest time.
No, it might be another guy. It doesn't matter. Mbappe is the best player in the world now, in my estimation. But yeah, Palantir very strong going into the 75. It's a very different story. Obviously, there's not that much time for it to be able to run through the actual high today. But as long as it's on trend, I think you got to be careful looking for the short there. I know we're about to go to Obi's. How about Palantir? I think you've broken trend here on NVIDIA as well. NVIDIA is now breaking trend. You're now making higher highs and higher lows. And good luck stopping this market. Yeah, good luck stopping this market, especially the NASDAQ, if all of a sudden NVIDIA wants to participate in this move. Like, the NASDAQ just broke through VWAP. It's clearly flying here. What's crazy is somehow AMD doesn't even seem to want to. Yeah, AMD's starting to come back in here. I think my trail is already here at the 126.5, so I'll let it get back in, and if it breaks that half, great. I might even look for like an opportunity. I could always just add. If it loses right here in front of 126.5, I might just jump back in, keep the same stop, and then play it back into the low. Like, distinctly different, but everything's catching a pretty big bid here, Obi.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm looking at some of these chip names and some of the names in play today. A lot of things catching a little bit of a bid, but Palantir kind of stuck in its range from yesterday. Yes, of course, it is catching a little bit of a bid, but you can see we talked about this one in the morning about how it's been acting on the week. We got that aggressive selling coming in on Monday. We hold a little bit of this 71. We drop down into 68s, reclaim on a V-shape off the morning action there on Wednesday, and then we've been holding that level on Thursday as well. So today we're catching a little bit of a bid back into the top of the range. So I kind of see this as a little bit of a range here, 70 to 75, 75 and some change right here. You can see that every time it does get up into 75 and a half roughly, we have been getting some selling every time. We got some of that this morning as well, but going into the Friday, I'm curious to know whether or not we finally break through some of these resistance levels here. But let's see how far the market will take us. We're trading right back above 21,800, and oh boy, this AVGO, man, still going. I wouldn't say no regrets, but definitely a little bit of reflections on some of this morning trading here. As the idea definitely is working out, my execution absolutely disgusting. But you know what? That's something that I definitely have to work on, improve on. And I talked to Neil about this during the midday session as well, and a little bit with Brankles. I got to go do my Brankles yelling at me session after the close today. Yeah, that's one I definitely am looking forward to. But you know what? I did spend a little too much risk on this, but the trade is still on. The trade is going pretty strong here. Now, something I do want to mention is this is what I was talking about in the morning. How much of a powerful tool the anchored VWAP can really be, depending on how you use it, depending on if you're being patient for it. You can see right here, I'm going to take off the VWAP from the intraday, and this is the anchor that's pinned to the earnings reaction, right? I was looking for a pullback all the way down into 210s off of the open, because that's where the anchored was sitting. But guess what? It doesn't give you that. It gives you a pullback into the current VWAP, onto today's VWAP, and it bids up. So it gives you a little bit of the move there. But guess where it finds a bid? On the way back down. Look how perfect that is. It comes down to, I wouldn't say to the penny, but almost beautifully. That's where it catches a strong bid. The bid is strong such that it bounces, breaks this downtrend that we're doing, reclaims the VWAP, expanding volume once again, and pushes through the day highs. Absolutely crazy there. Again, getting better at putting in reps for using this indicator effectively. Now, shout out to Brian Shannon once again. He is definitely one of the experts, or the expert of the anchored VWAP here, and you can see real time how powerful of a tool it can be if you have the right execution structure and patience for some of those levels to come in. Now, it's not always going to work perfectly. Again, it's just a line on the chart at the end of the day, but it can give you a little bit of a sign, an indication, or maybe a nuance to direction or a turn or a pivot. Like if I see like a tape turn there, you can see I also took the long aggressively. I actually stopped out going into it, which was, I think it was ridiculous for me to hold into the anchored and then get right back in as I find the bid there. But again, I was a little compromised in terms of decision making, so I was just like, all right, punch out, reassess, get back in, and I kind of bid it all the way back up into that VWAP there, getting stopped out maybe one more time before it does consolidate and hold that VWAP for a push a little bit higher. Took a little bit of the opening range high, not the opening range, high a day break through those 221s there. We're trading
MSTR
224s,
gonna break,
and it seems like you're saying MSTR is breaking. We got some super chats.
Yeah, we got a couple super chats, and obviously, it's not a guarantee that the announcement will come through that MSTR and Palantir will end up in the S&P 100, but that's a speculation. It absolutely could. MSTR, and shout out to AP, thank you for the super chat, and Robbie V, same thing, right? Like trackers are going to obviously be buying. You're seeing a lot of front running going into this. Now the market's up anyways. Bitcoin got back above 100,000, but obviously I think this has a lot more to do with that possible inclusion. This morning, if you're watching MSTR, there is absolutely zero doubt that you can see what was happening in the opening range. MSTR was bullish, it was trending higher, it was consolidating higher, and someone just kept dumping it at $405. And when I say dumping it, like clearly you're just running into a wall of selling, and it's been running into a wall of selling in front of that price, and it still is. I think it's a little bit optimistic to be buying this one at the tops. Like either it can clear out some fresh highs, and by the way, this started yesterday at roughly this time at this same price. So if this gets out and about above 405, maybe like a 406 break back into the prior low, yeah, this could easily at least squeeze it to 1213 this afternoon. I think it's worth keeping an eye on MSTR particularly. This Palantir, of course, being the other one, everybody. I don't know if Palantir, again, same story. It's just that it gets up to 75 and the sellers start coming in. Okay, granted, I thought it was a short too, but that's because there were sellers at this price. Like if people selling it at 75 as a trader, like why wouldn't you join them? So I think both of these are kind of the same thing. 405 there on MSTR, 75 here on Palantir. Thank you, Mikhail, for the super chat. We appreciate you very much. Filming off. No message, just spreading the love. So thank you. We appreciate everybody in our community. Let us know what else you guys are watching. AKY asking about Intel and Macy's. Those are two very different names. Difficult. Very different names. You go from Intel and Macy's. Yeah. So Macy's actually, okay, good news on Macy's. I don't necessarily love the stock. There's your daily chart on Macy's. The good news is it's trying to make a rounded bottom. I think this actually has a decent chance to break out. But it's kind of in that consolidative stage where it's not doing much. Inside day, there's your liquidity grab bottom. There's your higher low, rehold of the $16 level. There's your consolidative top. Your breakout is non-existent. So that's my look on Macy's. If it loses 16, it's in like a world of trouble. And then Intel, bit of a dog. And I know when I talked about Intel and tax loss harvesting, like if you're long in the underneath 20 bucks and you're holding it, great. My whole point was I just feel like you got more upside next year. Like if you're in the money here and you bought it off these 18 lows, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Looking for it to finally make a bit of a bottom. I just feel as if like this last move, like there's some people taking their losses on Intel, and it probably does better in January, February than any chance of a bounce that it does, you know, in the last couple of weeks of this trading year. That's all. I have nothing terribly against them. I just feel as if it's going to be a tough go for them. But yeah, I think the big moves are likely to be things like SOUN this afternoon. That's starting to, it broke 17. Now it's trying to do the mean reversion, which I'm looking for it to pull back into prior highs. That'd be a good spot to try to jump in here. It's doing the revert now. I didn't want any part of the 17 break. I didn't feel like chasing it up at that top. And then keep an eye on MSTR and that 405, Palantir, and 75. Those are big levels on both.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of just watching for key levels here. AVGO, I guess Tesla also kind of pulling back here. But yeah, AVGO is going for that 225. Current high is 224.85. So we just continue to pick it up and push higher. You can see that the trend is very, very aggressive here. You can see that nice little trend acceleration. So hold, consolidation, flag, breakout, acceleration, trending to the upside there. So a lot of decent price action there. I can definitely do a little bit better with the executions on those. But let us know in the chat. What are you guys trading? Have you guys been trading AVGO today? I am looking for the next trade. What is moving around? What is that's what I'm curious about. I'm doing some scans here as well. We have Bitcoin pulling a little bit back. We got to a high on the day of was it 101,959? So almost just shy of 102,000 on Bitcoin there. Let's see what some of these crypto names are up to as well. Again, as AVGO comes into that 225 mark right here. So let's we'll take a quick look. About 500 lots on the ask there, sitting at 225s. Probably going to run through it. As you can see, we're holding this trend with what seems to be a little bit of programmatic buying. Every little drop down 20 to 30 pennies keeps on getting bought up here incrementally on AVGO. So it continues to get bought up, and I'm sure people have been short off of the reversion in the morning, which was pretty decent because it gave you a false break of those highs, a bit of a double top here for the flush back in. Absolutely beautiful reversion, but look at the reversion of the reversion as well. So that reverts, and we get that bottom coming in and around 12 o'clock, and that breaks trend, holds VWAP, and continues. Now you're getting an even more accelerated trend to the upside. Here comes 225s. I'm sure that it will be likely to print a 225 right now. I think, do we get a high print of 225s yet? Yeah, okay, we're printing 99s as of right now. 99 is the high print. Nothing getting taken out on those 225s. I don't see a single order that went through on 225 just yet, but we've gone through more significant size, even lower, and we've been holding. You can see that right here. Through the high day there, we did a significant amount of volume, and we're continuing to trend up. So for a continuation, that's definitely something you want to be looking for, going with the trend. So let's see what tickers have been the volume gainers on the day, and take a look at if there are any potential opportunities on those names. We can see that NVIDIA right here, top of the list as of right now. Yeah, we're catching a bit of a reversion, Neil, but look at this. The NASDAQ has reverted about 50% of its flush, and NVIDIA, you can tell just by looking at it, it has not recovered anywhere near 50% of its flush to the lows there. Again, morning highs, pre-market highs, 139.98, so pretty much 140, and we came all the way back down into a low of 132.50. So I'm not really seeing anything too crazy here. It's not reverting. I mean, it's already kind of reverted. I think the entry is if we do a little bit of a pullback, I don't know, and hold a higher low, maybe potentially. But the fact that it's relatively weak and continues to be as the market runs up is kind of holding me a little bit on the sidelines to initiate that move. But SoundHound, there we go, number 2 on the list. 1711s continuing to push highs, with 1718 being the high of day. Now again, this is one of the constituents of NVIDIA. NVIDIA actually holds SoundHound on some of SoundHound on their books there, and you can see that the SoundHound is definitely sounding off there to the upside. RGTI, Rigetti, but not forgetty. This one came out earlier this week with some aggressive action coming into the week here. You can see that Friday was a strong bid up there, pre-market action, and a continuation this week. But we've been making highs in and around that $8 level, base around 6, so a bit of a range action going on Rigetti. So have that one on watch, but nothing too crazy. I don't really see anything off of it right now. Oh my God, there is AVGO. So yeah, that thing is continuing to go to the upside there. A bit of a trend action here as well, interestingly enough. Oh boy. Yeah, okay, so that's continuing off of VWAP as of right now, anchored VWAP, you can see, and Tesla, once again, taking a little bit of a pullback off of those highs at 434s, and we'll continue after we get back from Madera. What's up?
Keep an eye here on some of these semiconductor-related names. I have NVIDIA up right now. Wall Street Journal reporting that the U.S. is preparing a new AI chip limits here, basically new iChip limits to China's backdoor access. So they're basically, to put that in layman's terms, Wall Street Journal reporting that the U.S. is continuing to limit China's backdoor access to these AI chips. So we know it's been a while here for the last just over a year. We've had the U.S. trying to limit China's access to these AI chips. Now, apparently, those restrictions are going to be tightening up here. There's going to be another, I guess, level of limit. So keep an eye here on NVDA, Broadcom, AMD, all of these chip names with that catalyst in mind, guys. Back to you.
Right, so chips with a bit of a catalyst there, but yeah,
they've needed it.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of need it, but like the reversion came in much earlier, right? I think the reversion on the Nasdaq here comes in around 1 o'clock, 11:30, maybe. Was it? No, this is, you got to do plus 1 hour, because this is, I think, what, Chicago time, right? So
yes.
If it's 12, it's about 1 here, 1 market time as well. So around 1 o'clock, we started getting a bit of that bid coming right back into the markets here. So both on the ES and the Nasdaq. So going down further on this list, ACHR, I guess Archer Aviation taking some flight today, but nothing too crazy. Pulling back up into, I guess I have no idea what happened yesterday on this ticker, but we're reclaiming some of those levels here. QBTS, a quantum name, getting a little bit of a pull up here, all the way from 371 lows, trading at 460. So decent push there. Palantir, we've been talking about, that thing is still kind of within that range. Clean Spark, again, we talk about Bitcoin pulling back off of its day highs, current day highs being at 102s, and we're trading at 101 300s right now. So Clean Spark with a little bit of a pullback, trading back down. I guess this is looking like back down below VWAP as of right now. Here, VWAP sitting at 1208 on Clean Spark. Wisekey, I was talking to Neil about this one here. This one, yeah, interesting.
It's the key to success.
I have no idea, Neil, but I remember I'm still kind of along this ticker from a long time ago when what was it? NFTs were still kind of doing some things, and I was like, yeah, Wisekey, I like this, but I don't know what I was thinking back then.
Anytime
I guess
somebody,
it's working out. You know.
Anytime someone says like a long time ago, I'm reminded of it's a Bernie Mac quote from a movie that. Yeah, I can't quote it.
Okay. Why? Is it inappropriate to quote, or what do you mean?
It's kind of inappropriate. Like you could probably just Bernie Mac and long time ago.
Okay.
And that's all I can really do. I'm trying to think of a way that I could clean it up, but off the top of my head, and I'm not Bernie Mac, absolute legend, obviously, but yeah, just the guy was super fun. I love Bernie Mac. Okay, so we're in MSTR. It's got the bull flag. I didn't want to take a breakout. That's what it comes down to. It's a frog in throat. Sorry, but you guys, if you've been watching all week, you know I got a frog in my throat. So we're trying to break out this top. It's like 405.40 or 37 is the local high. So it's putting in this consolidation. So my thought is get in the 4s, give it to 3s, and then if we sustain the breakout, I can try to add off 5. If it fails the break, I'm only risking the buck instead of 2.5. And if we get the push into 410, 415, then I can try to add above 405, have a good price, and then be able to stop it over 404. That said, it's not really holding this breakout. So right now, you're trying to hold above this 405.5 level. If it can do that, I'm going to look for a continuation here and give it back to the 04s. It's still kind of in that decision point. So it's trying to go. The whole idea is that it's running into a potential announcement that it would be included into the NASDAQ 100. But the way I see it, you could scalp the trade, but look at this. Like if it's going to break away from here, I'm kind of thinking, I want it to do this into here. So I'd look for a place to add, risk the buck, risk it for the biscuit. And then the other thing I wanted to go to is it's that SOUN. Like this is the only other name that I was looking for the long end. SoundHound's now holding this 17 consolidation very, very well. Like there's no dip in a 16.5. The longer it holds this 17, the more I want to take a shot off of the $17 level on SOUN. So I didn't take the breakout thinking it was going to maybe break trend for a bit on a failed break, which it could still do. I didn't want to take out that top, but it is looking pretty good on SoundHound. And what is WKEY? Did that halt down only to immediately claim VWAP and break out the highs? So yeah, I can't believe it. You were just talking about this and it was I think about to. Now it is breaking.
It's definitely a repeat offender on that.
That's so sick.
On that ticker. You got to go back and see how it was acting during I guess COVID euphoria, if you want to call it, the last kind of run on a lot of these tickers, and definitely a halter, and definitely one to watch for there. And I honestly have no idea why it's running. I'm sure there might be some sort of catalyst there, but I guess it held up pretty decently over the past couple of years. Here come 226s. On AVGO, as again, it's starting to get a little aggressive to the upside here. I'm looking at these 15-minute bars, man. These 15-minute bars, there is no relief.
There is a story.
What's the catalyst? Who's got the catalyst for us?
Hold on a second. Let me just full face it. Look, they announced. Satellite launch with SpaceX in the new year on the 14th.
Okay.
So that was the catalyst.
Getting into
so there's a launch early next year for Wisekey with SpaceX, and that's on January 14th. So they're getting a bump on that. Obviously, that means check it, on the 14th. Maybe you want to go back and look at this. We didn't get a chance to add on MSTR. Why? Because MicroStrategy fails the 405 break. I thought they needed to hold above the top. There's still too many sellers up here. And the way I'm framing it is I want to be in the long. Obviously, if you have it down here, great, you're holding on. Maybe you can trail it out. But in order to participate up here, I didn't want to have to pay up to 405.5, where it was trying to break the early high. It was trying to weasel in and only risk $1 and then be able to add up here. But we're not getting what we're looking for. I still think it has a good potential run, but it's just not doing exactly what we need here. So AMD's frustrating in that it's not giving you the reloads that I want to the short trade, but it's holding the bottom of this channel, 102, 125.5 to 126 change. I'm just short of VWAP from earlier, that's all. And you're not really getting either the flush down to break down and make some new lows or just get to the low of the day, and it's not giving me the short entries that I'm looking for to jump back into it. And Rivian Millionaire, actually this wasn't your comment, Rivian Millionaire. It was L87P. Mara is the next MSTR. Mara doesn't have the Sailor guy. They can try to do the same model, but there's a couple of things going on here for MSTR. There is still that hedge trade which is going against MSTR, which is the short MicroStrategy long Bitcoin. And they've been doing what they've been doing for a much longer time period and accumulating Bitcoin at much better prices, which makes it difficult for anyone to just try to copy their model. And I get it. All the miners do have to pivot to something and adjust their plans somehow. I just don't know how it's the same thing. It's hard to try to make that comparison joining late. Just very quickly, for anybody, there is no absolute guarantee that MSTR or Palantir will end up in the NASDAQ 100 or that it will be announced. I just want to make that clear. It is not some mortal lock, despite what anybody might tell you. Could it happen? Could it be announced? It's possible. It doesn't mean it's happening for sure. Clearly, there's some buying going into it, but it doesn't mean that it has to happen. I know there's a lot of exuberance. It's having an up day. It doesn't have a lot. It hasn't had too many of those recently. But yeah, it's just something that could happen here. I fully expect like this could lose bid, and then I get out, and then maybe look for a dip buy somewhere else. But it isn't that crazy. And you're right, John T. Microsoft denied Saylor. I don't think anybody was surprised that Microsoft shareholders they declined to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. You know, they're a large company, and for them to adapt that kind of a measure is just going to take a heck of a lot more, and probably going to be a little bit slower to that type of a move. Right? Like it's a lot different when you have leadership. Like it was a lot easier for like a Tesla, let's just say, and someone that has the leadership like an Elon Musk than it would over at Microsoft. It's not going to happen very quickly, I don't think, for them. Such a disappointment NVIDIA is, Obi.
Yeah, man.
It was trying.
That's what I said. It's like it's relatively weak, and it's like is it really going to bounce? Because if the market starts to turn, it's already so weak it can just kind of come back in and consolidate. So it's like we talked about a lot of these tickers. They keep getting these aggressive pushes in the morning session, whether it's to the upside or to the downside. If it's to the downside, what I'm realizing more often than not, a bit of a dead cat bounce. If it doesn't really revert within a certain period, and then same thing with the move to the upside, no real pullback. And I don't know what the opposite of a dead cat bounce would be when it just consolidates near the highs. But a little bit of a, I mean, yeah, I don't know, a live cat jump.
No, there isn't any.
I don't think so.
Sometimes there's just no pun.
No, there is.
Sometimes there's just nothing.
There's nothing.
It's okay.
But yeah, no, I guess that's NVIDIA's kind of doing a little bit of that dance right now.
I so didn't want to chase this
but the market's, like I said before, giving us a little bit more of a reversion there, 50% on the Nasdaq, and some of these other tickers looking somewhat similar as well. Again, we talk about some of these. Chip names, again, if you look at TSM, if you look at SMH obviously going to be a little bit more reflective of the NASDAQ just based off of what they are made up of. But yeah, no, if you look at TSM did have a strong pull and then off of the open, and then a nice strong pullback as well, but recovered almost well over 50% of the move on TSM there. So some of these chips are bouncing, some of them are not. AMD, bit of a dead cat. Intel as well, bit of a dead cat. SMCI, dead cat bounce as well on that one there. ARM was a little distinctly different, but the trading pretty much sideways. All things said and done as of right now. Bitcoin kind of curling back up to the highs there. That I don't know. I got eyes on Tesla to see if we can hit that 435 mark on Tesla, but we're still kind of consolidating trading sideways, just orbiting a point above, a point below. You can see this right here, 434s, 432s, a little bit of a chop happening here on Tesla. So I don't really got anything else on watch. We did have some earnings names today. We can go. I guess we can go through some of those. Again, we're talking about Broadcom. We're a little involved in Broadcom today as well. But some earnings names from this week as well. I think RH was interesting off of the open here. RH. What are these guys called again? What did you say?
The buying was really heavy on that.
What's the what are these guys called? What does the RH stand for?
No, it's actually okay. So it stands for Restoration Hardware.
Okay.
But you're not supposed to call them that anymore.
Okay.
They changed the name to RH.
Okay.
Which it's basically like Square going to block. Like everybody knows who you are, but you're not supposed to say it. It's a very strange thing. Okay. So I'm the jinx on SOUN. I mean, MSTR is starting to go back up, but I'm the jinx on SUN. It came back in. The prior high, 1675. I don't think at this point, if it gets to 16.5, I probably wouldn't like it anyways. But I got in front of 17, creatively enough. I actually thought I was getting 05s. I ended up getting 04s. If we don't hold on to the prior high, I'm out. if we bounce off of this and come out the other end at 17, it could be a good place to add, or I could get stopped out and try to get back in. But it's around here, giving it to the quarter that we wanted to play for sure. And let's see what happens. MSTR is still doing the exact same thing that it was before, so that's a bit of a nothing burger. Tesla's making a kind of lower highs in here. I don't love it as much as I did if it had maybe given you the 30 level. I think we'll just stick with, at least for now, MSTR, SOUN, and I don't necessarily think Palantir. Palantir doesn't seem to have the juice to make the breakout. Like it's no longer running into the 75 level. Like it's failing in front of 75 instead. Like if anything, Palantir is kind of looking weak. Like it can't get past the 75 zone. I don't want to be shorted again, but it doesn't seem to have the juice that I had earlier. So we just kind of stick with these ones. I guess we probably got on a bit early. But let's see it make a rounded bottom. Maybe I can add to it and then play it out. Like it's one of those where it doesn't really have any levels up here to contend with. So you just sort of play it by ear. If it gets to the high, takes them out in front of the high. If it gets to the next quartile, then that'll be the 50 level, takes them out in front of the 50s, and see if it can get to 18 bucks. So SOUN certainly making a decent rally this afternoon. Like unless you're short a chip name like NVIDIA or an AMD, already long Tesla, I think you want to look for the strength. SOUN's got some. Finally, MSTR's got some. I'd love for MSTR to break out this top, though.
Yeah,
we're just hanging around this top. It just did another wick into the bottom. Like, oh yeah, maybe I'll add to some here at 04s again. And again, still with the same stop. If it loses 403, I got to jump out of this thing and then play it into that high. This time, if it breaks the high a second time, I'll look to maybe cover some on an initial push. Let's just see. It's still holding a bull flag, and I'd like it to break out. Not doing much. There's still that WKEY as well that's also moving around, OB.
Yeah, you got out of that one, or?
No, I never got into. I never took this one.
There. Okay.
No, just SOUN. I got into SOUN. I'm in MSTR, but I never I wouldn't trade SOUN and Wisekey.
Yeah, I think
they're very similar type of plays.
You would say that wouldn't be too wise, or?
That wouldn't be too wise. That's not a bad pun.
Yeah,
that's fine. It's also wise to go to Adara when asked to.
You do have Lamb Weston here popping up from round 73 halves to at highs almost 79s in this one 15-minute candle. Basically here, we do have Lamb Weston up about 4%. We have a report from Reuters that Post Holdings is exploring a possible deal with Lamb Weston. So keep an eye on LW and POST with that report here. It's been moving for the last, 5 minutes. So watch out for Lamb Weston here, guys. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much.
Merger Friday. Aren't you supposed to do deals on Mondays, people? No, it's already starting to pull back. But sometimes when you have combination speculation, you do get an artificial floor in the stock. So you try to look back to what are some of the key prices, like something like the 75 area here, or the 76.20, something along those lines is what I might be looking at for Lamb Weston. I never really want to play the tops on any combination news. It's always a bad place to be a buyer. You'll just get rinsed. And then it's a trickier thing, too, as a day trader, because, and this happened live for me on this show, there was deal speculation on Spirit Airlines, and it did a similar move. Like, it gapped up Spirit Airlines. It was trending in the afternoon. Like, the scalp longs were killing it, all that good fun. I was holding on to some. And then at, 3:45, they halted the stock news pending. And as you can guess, it didn't open back up. I ended up holding it overnight, and when there was no confirmation of a potential deal, it got back down, and I got, for the amount that I had left, I kind of took the hit. As a day trader, you don't want to get caught in a halt. So it's a little bit dangerous buying the top on a buyout news if they don't end up confirming anything. Really, you're already running out of steam here in the teens, SOUN? Seriously, that's lame. I didn't see. So this will be an example of trade which is working, entry which was terrible. Why is it a bad? Okay, so yes, it's going up, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is, what was the execution strategy? There's your prior high, there's where it consolidated, dip back into the prior high, and then be long. It'd be fine. You could have the same price on the other side of the trade, and it's better. Or you could have a price in the 90s if you actually wait for it to come and give you that rounded bottom there on SOUN. So it's just a distinction that ends up mattering a heck of a lot more when you start playing out, hey, well, what happens if I do this 10 times out of 10 or take that trade 100 times? It's just a very different story on SOUN. But I got to watch out for MSTR because this consolidation is once again testing the lows. Man, somebody just doesn't care. Someone's selling the crap out of this at 405, and they're not letting it go. So if you're in this stock from the bottom, profit taking, not the worst idea. I mean, I'm in here at the 04. It doesn't seem like it wants to make that breakout here in SOUN. Not SOUN, I mean MSTR. MSOUN's looking okay. No, but sound looking okay, but MSTR, like I'm not holding it past that 03. We'll jump out of the trade. I guess you could have just been in there scalping it for a little bit, but that's not what I was looking to capture. Like I was looking for the big move. Like the run into the close, the run right up into the end of the day. But the way this is getting sold off at 405, somebody's not letting it go. And that's just, you're accepting it at this point. Like I'd love for it to consolidate and hold again, maybe take another crack at it. But I'm always going to play that with a stop because I don't need to get rinsed $10 on SOUN. Just not my cup of tea. And to each their own. Like I get it. If you want to hold this down into 400, maybe you're willing to hold into the aftermarket too. I absolutely am not. So that's going to be the name of the game. SOUN, go back to this. It just got back into the high of the day. So now it needs to break the high of the day and get back up into the top on sound. So yeah, it's gone back into the highs. Now we need to break those highs. Bitcoin Trader TV, I like this one. What did you say there? Sailor selling. Yeah, probably not, but somebody is. It could be new shorts, although that seems insane to me. But it could be a short seller. It could be somebody taking some short-term profits on it. 405. I mean, there's a decent chance that that's a pretty popular strike today. Like, there's a lot of things that could be going on at that level, but they all amount to the same thing. Regardless of whatever the speculation is on what's happening at 405 on MSTR, it just works out to the same thing. There's just an abundance of sellers, and the buyers can't win up here. They gave it a shot. They gave it a shot. I gave it a shot. It's just not working. Maybe there's a playoff VWAP, and you move on to the next. But again, I like the long I want it to go, but I'm not holding it all the way back into VWAP. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So you give it a shot. If it holds, great. If it doesn't, then you got to be able to jump out of the trade and then move on to the next opportunity, right? So you don't want to get rinsed on something like that. I think you take a reasonable risk, and if it works out, great. If it doesn't, you've got to be able to not be stubborn about it.
Yeah, definitely learned some lessons on being a little too stubborn this morning. But some crazy action happening here on AVGO. A bit of a grab of the highs, grab of the lows here. 225's doing a little bit of a churn.
Anything for you.
We broke a little bit of a trend as well, and 225s are just holding right now. So you can see we held that power bar pretty well as of right now. Let's see. I don't know. We are in power hour right now, and we've trended up since about the midday on AVGO. This market seems to be consolidating near on top of that 21,800 as of right now. So I'm going to be a little bit patient here, see if that break of trend leads to any sort of a reversion as of right now. But again, got to stay nimble, got to keep it tight, and see what the next trade is, Neil.
Yes, sir. And Obi and others introducing a new discovery on the NASDAQ, Worksport, ticker WKSP. Worksport is a US-based manufacturer and rapidly expanding with growing revenues, government contracts, and innovative green energy products designed to power your life off the grid. Whether you're on the move or seeking sustainable energy solutions, Worksport has you covered. Now trading on the NASDAQ under WKSP. Discover the future of clean energy with Worksport. And what's interesting, we actually got a question about Worksport. I love the green in that. Not so much the winter that you see at the end of that, because it's like ridiculously cold outside. It's like minus 15 Celsius with the wind chill. But Worksport on volume, and we had a question about this in the dollar level, and I don't know why actually I wasn't paying more attention to this, because it genuinely is making a test on volume of the $1 level, which is always an important one for a penny stock. It's a good psychological level. It's actually held a couple of times in the afternoon. I think it's, from a technical standpoint, it's the kind of one where at 305, I'm probably waiting for like confirmation on Monday on volume that you can hold above $1 and not chasing the move. That would be my approach. There, it is. It actually does look good technically. We got a question about it. I'm like, yeah, I know. We've been talking about them all week, but it actually looks good off that dollar level. So you didn't break the high of the day on SOUN. Still okay. It's holding the higher low. That's why you scalp out half of it, but it's right now holding a higher low, but it needs to continue to do so. If we lose the bid here, again, just jump out. I do not want to be stubborn about this whatsoever. And I was just asked, well, there was a question about Wisekey for levels, and then Elon had a question about spec names. I'll maybe do Wisekey first. When it comes to levels for this, I mean, you guys tell me. Because when you've got a stock doing this, I don't have any. You can always pull a weekly chart up, and I guess what I'm getting at is when it comes to levels, you can pull up a weekly chart and go back a couple of years and try to find these bad boys out here. Like, I think if you zoom in, there we go. If I zoom out on a weekly chart, okay, there's like $10.50, and then you have what seems like some resistance here just underneath $9. How much does that matter 2 years? Oh, well, this one's a year out, year and a half out. It's hard to say, but yeah, you are coming into like the first, I guess, level just underneath $9, and then 10.5 is a big one on the weekly chart. When you have a blue sky set up, I think I'd be much more inclined to look at the trend and the tape than those levels. You're still far enough away from it that I don't know that they matter yet, but you are running into some ones from like a year and a half ago. And then the other question was from Elon in the chat. And it was directed to both of us, actually, Obi, if you have thoughts on this.
Sure.
Looks like traders recently favor trading the spec names like SOUN, ALAB, Rigetti, not as much the larger caps. And it's more of a comment than a question, I guess. I don't disagree with you. And
What do
I
you think that might be, Neil?
Well, one, look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA, bell of the ball, split, bell of the ball. Now look at it. Like, what are you doing with this thing? You could short it. That's an option. You could be short this name every opportunity that you get that sets up in a consolidation. But oftentimes, you just get into a market, and especially true in the afternoon. Like, since that last push up in the NASDAQ, this is what the NASDAQ's doing. So what do you think the continuation looks like on some of the bigger cap tech names? Not that great. But if you find something like an SOUN, like, what's good about it? I'm just saying it because I happen to be in it. There's other. I could look at Rigetti, but I'm not in it. Like, if this breaks away from the 17, unlike NVIDIA, this could make a 4 to 10% move. This local high is another 4 points. I mean, it goes another $1.70. Like, it breaks 18, goes to 18.5. You've got a double-digit gain on you. Like, you have the opportunity where you can take this consolidation, scalp some out, and then breaks out the high, and you're risking 20, 25 pennies on it, and it could go $1. And it's been trending up all day. It's harder to find the same kind of setups, especially in the afternoon on a Friday in things like NVIDIA. Like, as much as I can tell you, hey, AMD's a great short, but like, what am I doing with it since? Like, it gave a setup into VWAP where you're playing off a prior high, and since then, it's completely sideways all afternoon. So I think it's true that a lot of times you'll get into these environments where those free money breakout trades on the Teslas and the NVIDIAs of the world aren't as plentiful, and the runners on the small caps tend to be really good. But everyone has to stay in their own lane. Like, don't just jump over to them if you have no trading strategy or execution strategy, or you've never even looked at them, you don't know how to read the tape, you've never watched the level 2, you don't understand the spread, what the slippage might be. You can't just jump on over to them if you don't really have a strategy for it. But if they're remotely in your playbook, certainly there are times that you should be jumping to them. Heck, there are days that we're looking at meme stocks. There's days that we're looking at only tech. There's days that we're looking only at the Chinese ADRs. I think obviously, every market is going to have different leadership. And as a trader, you want to be able to make sure that you try to dabble in enough trading strategies that you can follow along in whatever happens to be working to a point. Because I don't think you want to get too far out of your lane when it comes to executing. You want to make sure that you're at least still following a solid trade plan. Like, it's not enough to say Palantir is going crazy. I'm going to long Palantir today. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. It just has to align with your playbook, right? I'm sure that I mean you might have a perception that a lot of traders are trading a certain types of names, but I think the fact of the matter is, like, all different kinds of traders trade all different kinds of things, depending on what their playbook, what their personality kind of aligns with. And yeah, no, it's like I like things that are potentially in play, and you can have your own definition for things that are potentially in play as well. Wow, this thing keeps on stopping me out and then just flushing back in. It's just a straight chop here on AVGO.
Oh, Broadcom.
As it kind of pops up and down here. So you know what? I'm kind of done with this one as of right now. I think the market looking like it's taking a little bit of a pullback, but again, we have only about 50 minutes left, and we've been kind of trending to the upside. I was looking for that for a prior bar break on a 15, and it came to the penny, to the prior bar low, and then just held, and I'm like, all right, well, it's not really looking that good for me, and it just slaps up to the upside, breaks those highs, and then comes right back in. So absolutely crazy there. Insanity is correct if you were to describe some of this price action here as of right now. But yeah, I think lesson learned for me. I got to be a lot more patient for certain key levels to come in. VWAP holds, consolidations, to get involved with the ideas. Just having the idea is not.
Can I remind you of something that you told me 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
And that was, sometimes when you're looking at a parabolic runner and you're looking for that mean reversion, put a preference on the one that is not breaking out the high. Like, if it's giving you the setup into a place where there's already been sellers that won, then look there. And because it was just a question about a double top on Archer, ACHR, and look at the mean reversion here. Like, to me, this, in theory, I mean, anything can happen in the next few minutes. This breaking trend, it gives you a trend break, and it gives you the high of the day as a resistance spot. So it can play into the high, fail the high of the day break, where there already were sellers on the stock. You already know there were people selling on the stock. It worked this morning. And then you get the trend reversal on this, as opposed to, say, like a Broadcom. I think that's sort of it. And yeah, SoundHound, like, really? Not even a green candle since it retested the high of the day. It's kind of lame. It's still holding 17-ish, but it's not great. Like, it's not, the continuation's not there. The volume is kind of okay, but it's already starting to dwindle back down in. It's not really giving me the feels that they should be like, hey, let's get back in what we got out. Nah, I'm not really seeing it. But that Archer, like, that at least, like, that's giving you something. Like, I think Archer, and this is Archer Aviation, by the way, like, that actually, because there is, like, ARCH, which it's easy to mix up. There's ARCH, which is a different stock. It's like a $150 stock, and there's ACHR. Archer Aviation is the one I'm talking about. It has this nice trend up into the high of the day. As a matter of fact, do we even have locates on this? Let's double check. Yep, we do. Like, this looks like a good reversion, but I didn't look at the daily chart. Hey, the daily chart looks just as good up here. There were sellers back on December 6th as well, at the same price level, and the day before. Right up here around the 8.5. So you know there's resistance at $8.50. It's got a big trend up. If it reverts that trend and is underneath $8.50, then I want short on this thing. And it's free locates, which doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I mean, the action on this thing is absolutely wild. We came right back down, Neil. As the 15-minute bar is about to close, we slam right back into consolidation lows after weakening the highs by another 20 pennies. So it is getting maybe a little crowded here, but a bit of a held bid on those 224.95s. You can see I'm getting a little too excited on the break of this trend right here. But then again, the break of trend doesn't necessarily always mean it's going to do a little bit of a reversion. It could just mean that it might just slow down some of that buying for a little bit. But that buying, look at this hold on this bid on top of this 225. So this 225 is holding so well as of right now. So let's see, if we count it from this candle right here, from when we first broke out of that 225, for about almost 30 minutes now, Neil, we've been holding above this 225 mark on the break of trend, but not really the break of the bid, as it clearly the bid is showing up over and over again on top of that 225. So I am clearly, I guess, again, I think I was a little compromised a little earlier, but I think I'm gonna just piece off of this one and just maybe look elsewhere, because AVGO and I not having the best of times as of today, but I think it's another great one to reflect on. I still don't, I guess, take back what I said earlier. I was telling Joe as well. I was like, this ticker today and the type of price action it's doing and the type of opportunity that it's presented us with is definitely worth kind of looking at, studying, and getting a little bit better at. I am clearly not ready to kind of exercise the best practices on this ticker. And you know what? It's a great learning lesson today. Sure, I spent a little bit of a risk, but market tuition is what we like to call it here in the trading world. But
you know what it comes down to?
What is it?
There's only so many days you will have a stock like Broadcom up 25% on earnings, breaking an all-time high, and then trading on extra volume.
Yeah.
Like if you trade Broadcom every single day, let's just say you had traded Broadcom every single day for the last couple of weeks. Today, you probably would have gained the amount of experience in a single day worth of watching it and tape reading it that you did cumulatively for that entire couple of weeks, because today was special. Yep. It's just more valuable, and it's no different from anything that's in play.
I've been slowing this thing down all day. You already know. And
I think that's why sometimes, and I know like Tishy in the chat and a lot of other traders, they like looking at a certain subset of small caps. Like I actually just saw in the chat someone saying, it might have been Tisha Perkins, that SOUN has a float that's too big for them because they only like to trade small cap runners with a smaller float that are a little more explosive. Some people like the liquidity better. It's whatever works for you. But if you trade a bunch of ones that are in that cohort, then suddenly when there's a new gap runner that day, you're already experienced trading something of its style. But some of the bigger cap techniques are so unique in their own ilk, it's not as if you're gaining the same experience. Like, it's not so simple to transfer from NVIDIA to Broadcom. They're very different stocks. They're not going to trade the same. So if you're trying to trade Broadcom, there are not a lot of other symbols that give you that same experience. Every now and then you'll get some, comparables in bigger cap names. I think the best examples would be like something like some of the recent IPOs. Like I think things like Reddit and Kava, if you traded those, it probably helped you trying to trade whatever the one was yesterday. What the heck was that thing called again?
TTAN.
TTAN, Titan, whatever. Titan, whatever.
I saw that, and I did. Well, I was in the bathroom for a little bit of it, but I was like, yeah, this looks nothing like those IPOs. So I was like, I did not want to touch it, even though like borrowed shares for it.
It was more like
ready for it. It was slightly more like.
It was kind of like.
I don't. The thing is, I didn't really
lower liquidity.
I didn't see the open of it, so I can't really speak much on it. I came back to it a little bit later, but some of those other IPOs, you had size kind of following it. You had more distinct kind of action that kind of told you a little bit of a story, gave you places to risk off of. But I think that 101 to 105 kind of consolidation was pretty straightforward. It held that pretty well. Funny enough, I saw that like last night. On the 15-minute chart, the 745 candle breaks that, drops down to 95s, wicks back up, and guess where we're trading coming in the next day? Back above 100. Yeah. So it's like whoever bought it up in the last 15 minutes before the aftermarket close at 8 p.m. Definitely, and there was a lot of there was like again I was only looking at the BATS data, but there was about 850 lots that went through at those prices below 100 all the way down to 95s, and then it got picked right back up. I don't know how much volume actually went through on it, but there's definitely opportunities. But yesterday's IPO distinctly different from some of the better ones that we've had this year.
And that's sort of the thing. Like you've got to, again, you always find your lane. I see a lot of people talking about NVIDIA. Just one thing. So Archer did break 850. So no mean revert. You can't take a mean reversion trade if it's just continuing to go up or go down and it's continuing to go up. So it's now got a new trend. Like forget about the trend from VWAP. It's now got a new 820. There's your run here. Break into the high of the day. There's your lower high. It's got a new trend that it's setting in. So it would now need to break this trend line and be under 850. Otherwise, there is no setup. And NVIDIA, because it is moving and you guys are interested in it, every time I look over at SOUN, it's like it's right back to 17 again. NVIDIA doing nothing. Why is everyone saying NVIDIA? Not doing anything. Going sideways. And why? Like AMD is so frustrating.
What's AMD up to?
It keeps trying to break 125.5. So this time, here's the thing. If it doesn't break the 125.5 here and play to the low of the day, then I'm trailing out of it this time. So it's bounced off this a couple times. It's a VWAP trade. I'm just trying to hold it for the low of the day. That was the plan. It was, like, I mean, after yesterday, I was sort of thinking if it just sells off this level again, you know, we're at the low, sells off, and look for the continuation, missed that trade. I'm like, we get VWAP. If we break here, why not wait for it to get back to the low? You know, and if we break back above this prior high from, that'll be Wednesday, then I can just get out. But now all of a sudden, if it cannot hold under this 125.5 underneath, then I should trail out of it and maybe just sort of cover it. It's doing it again. Like if it dips, yeah, I'm just going to adjust my
Market's
trail.
pulling back off of 21.8.
It should, if it doesn't work now, if it doesn't follow through to the low of the day, then it's not going to, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think if it doesn't happen off of this market
here.
breakdown, then maybe poised for a little bit longer there. ARM, beautiful downtrend on ARM. I'm noticing as of right now. So
you know what's crazy? That Broadcom.
It's still going, man. This thing's gonna probably squeeze into the close. To be honest, like I've been fighting the. Well, I wasn't really fighting the trend here. Might have been trying to do some top picking, but again, not best practice. I got to wait for that shelf on 225 to break. To actually look for that breakdown right there. But again, I kind of pointed out what I started the position with, and I was like, all right, break at this trend, maybe dabble in a little bit, look for that follow through to get a lot more. But it didn't really give it to me, anticipating the pull down as it comes down below 225s and then rips right back up. So it's like, all right, well, maybe the technical trading might not be the best when it's doing some of this chop action and just kind of like, you know, if you're taking longs on top of 25s, that's been holding really well. If you're taking shorts on top of some of these wicks, it just keeps on coming in, printing a little bit higher, pulling back in, printing a little bit higher, pulling back in. You can see multiple times I get stopped out, boom, right here, prior high break, boom, again, prior high break, slamming right back in. And yeah, market's coming right back in. So again, I'm clearly a little compromised, and I think it's good practice. What I've learned over again, my couple years here at the firm is like, all right, well, when you realize that you've been compromised in your decision making, you're clearly not trading like you normally do. Again, this is right here. This kind of chart. Not really what a lot of my trades tend to look like. Not really what a lot of my best trades look like, right? And I think that goes again to I guess what Sean was talking about just a couple of days ago about like different kinds of sizing and really playbooking some of your best trades and figuring out where you need to be putting on more of your risk over time. And yeah, I definitely know, looking at this chart right here, that some of my best trades definitely do not look anything like this, as these are way too many decisions, way too many chops, way too many stop outs right there. A lot of the best trades, yeah, sure, even if they don't go right away for me, a lot of the time I'm not making too many decisions on them. Here comes the high a day on Broadcom once again, and
of course it is.
Guess what's pulling back down, Neil? Tesla to the downside, breaking that 332s, pulling back into 432s, pulling back into 430 as of right now.
What do you think AMD did
on Tesla? AMD probably just came right back.
Right back to one. It goes to 122. It goes right there to 125.5, and once again it catches a bid at 125.5. So I trailed out to steal one from Obi. This prior bar open and this prior bar close, which ended up being the same price. I'm like, that's a pretty convenient place to put a stop, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it, or trail, I should say, because a stop would be up here, and then a trail would be down there. We try to be a little more precise with the terms that we use.
Yes.
I got into Archer, which is Archer Aviation, not the other one. So there's the trend. It closed under trend. I got in, and the stop will be at the high of the day. First bid at 8:30, and then 8:20 as well. So we were looking for that mean reversion. But the other thing that this had going for it, as a reminder, is a little bit of a lower high resistance on the daily. When you look at it on the 15-minute, this is what happened this morning at that same price level. Like what's been happening at 850 on this stock is just rejection. Like it had one time it was able to close up here. And it's kind of telling what happened the next day. Like, right, it closes up here, trying to tight to the 850, immediately dumps. This morning it tried to break through. But like again, like if you're looking for that setup, it's the mean reversion setup where I have it breaking a trend line, but I also have it at a resistance level. So once it gets to 830, probably need to tighten this one back up to an 850 stop instead of the high of the day. Like it's just a matter of like trying to get it at the right price area. Oh, now I know why I had this pen in front of me. I've had this pen in front of my desk so I could keep marking off the oh boy counter.
Oh boy.
Would you believe it? That's like the second time you've said it. We're an hour and a half into the afternoon show.
I think I've said it a couple
and you've
more
completely slowed down using it. Like if the counter is half of what I was expecting.
Sometimes the momentum slows down. Oh boy.
Why would you say it as I was putting an order in? It's just incredibly inconsiderate.
Priorities, Neil. Priorities.
All right, now I can mark it off. I didn't miss that one. I got that one. Trust me, it's half of what I anticipated it would be.
Yeah.
You say it all the time.
I think I've said it more than a couple of times.
No, that's
2
that's
PM.
the third one. I have 3 this afternoon.
I think I saw you miss a couple as well. So.
What was it? You saw me miss a couple?
Yeah.
So why didn't you say something?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not like, hey, Neil, get on the counter. Why would I say something like that? That's, not cool.
You gotta hold me accountable. To be honest, like one of the
Right now, Neil, I'm just trying to hold myself accountable.
No, but you know what? Actually, I say this all the time. There was before we came to either right when we came to YouTube or just before it. It might have been before we came to YouTube. We were doing it was early after we came to YouTube in 2020, and I remember when we first started trading NEO, right? And pretty much everybody on the show kept saying NIO.
Yes, I remember that.
Everybody
I used to watch.
Everybody was
when
saying that.
Everyone was saying NIO.
And would you believe it? How long it took for someone to say, "Hey, you guys are saying that company name wrong. You're mispronouncing."
You guys actually thought it was NIO?
I didn't know how to pronounce it.
You know how I
properly.
say Google?
No,
I thought
but-
you guys were just NIOing.
No, after the fact, when we found out, then it was a joke. But at the beginning, we were legitimately getting it wrong, and nobody was telling us. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I guess grammatically, what's
me.
it like? What is it like? I before E. I don't know. I'm not a.
I before E, except after C.
Yes, that's the one. And then this is an I before an O, so it makes sense. I mean.
No, well, look, it's just it basically comes down to. It just comes down to I just like. If you know someone's making a
if it's
mistake,
like
why
Neo,
wouldn't you just say something?
If it's Neo, then it's why is it not NEO, right? Neo is NEO.
Look, obviously I get it.
One.
Obviously I get it now, and it
no.
seems ridiculous. But we were all of us were saying it incorrectly. That's all.
I remember
I don't
when
mind.
I used to watch the show, I would call it NIO as well because I'm like that's hilarious. We can have some fun with the names. And
I don't take myself too seriously to be offended when someone corrects me. I'd rather be corrected, man. Like it's just.
I mean, that's something as a trader, right? The market corrects us all the time.
If you can't handle it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A couple of things here. So yes, I tightened up my stop on Archer.
Wow.
There's a trend reverse. It's trying to get back to 820.
Broadcom just slapped up a whole point.
Yeah, so I've moved my trail into the prior bar high. What the Broadcom again?
22750s. This thing is squeezing into the close.
That is
Palantir
absurd.
is going too?
Palantir is now Palantir wants to get to 75.
Frankles, what do I do?
Oh, MSTR. MSTR is not going. So Palantir is going. That's for sure. It's now up to the 75 level. I just got to fill an SOU, and I'm taking a little bit more out back at that high. But wow, look at it go on Palantir. It would be nice if you had MSTR going as well. Did you say it again?
No, I didn't.
It'd be nice if MSTR was going, but I think we got it right to jump out of MSTR. There's no juice here. Now it's a lower high. Took our shot there. You're not going to win every single trade. That'll be our loser for the afternoon. Was taking a shot on MSTR 404 and then losing into 403. But Archer's starting to go. SOUN's back up to that high that it can't seem to break. Nvidia's doing nothing. We trailed out of AMD, but much like for most of the day, it is Broadcom's world, and we're all just living in it. But you know what the best thing is? I have never owned a single share of Broadcom, yet it's a pretty decent chunk of my portfolio. Why?
Why is that?
Because the two biggest holdings in my portfolio, any guesses?
Qs?
And
SPY? Boom.
that's what I'm talking about.
Let's go. That's all you need.
And so I do own
all you
Broadcom.
really need.
And that's whatever. That's not a brag, because technically, if my entire portfolio was Tesla or Nvidia, I'd be up more. But just diversify your bonds.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, no, ETFs again, time and time again. You can take a
huge
look
volume
back at it. We talk about these tickers are almost poised to do really well over time because of how they're structured as well. But yeah, no. I think it's definitely solid. That again, I don't think I have any. No, I don't have any SPY or Qs. I think my biggest holding is Apple and some Canadian companies as well.
Yeah, there's, basically how it happened for me. Like, there's two ways to play it. Like, some people, if you're aggressive, which is probably what you should do when you're young, is like you pick the individual names that you like, and then as you get older, you take some of those gains and then you work into the indexes and ETFs. Now, I'm more conservative. I did it the other way around. Like, I sort of built a portfolio around some Canadian names and mutual funds, that kind of stuff, and then built a position in the indexes. And then once I was like, hey, I feel comfortable, then I got into the individual stocks, which is, I would argue, is not the way to go when you're young, but everyone has different life circumstances under which I won't get into it. It's way too long-winded. It's better for a podcast form. But I would argue that I didn't do it the right way, and I can get into the reasons why, but it ultimately doesn't matter. I think when you're younger, if you pick a few quality winning stocks and then work your way into the ETFs later, I think you'll find yourself in a good spot. There's no bad way to do it, buying quality. That said,
how would you define that?
Before, just one thing here, SOUN failed again at the high of the day. So this time, I took some more out there, so it just doesn't seem to want to go. I feel like if it closes underneath 17, this 3-minute bar, I'm going to punch out and not even wait for that stop. So unfortunately, this one doesn't want to break out the high, but it's like MSTR. I was just looking for the long and the consolidation for a break of the high. The difference is I was scalping for some profit on this. I just heard a halt. What was that?
It's something halted? Here.
No, it's this AUMN. I'm completely unfamiliar with this stock. It's a penny stock. Who cares? Sorry. No.
Huh. The last one I have here halted INAQU. That's units. That's a SPAC units. Interesting. SPACs are moving again? INAQ. What?
Market top.
IN.
You know we got a problem when the SPACs are going. I'm just saying.
I mean, it's not really like, if you want to call this a halt, like what is it really doing? Yeah, it's doing nothing on 20K volume. Yeah, no, it's absolutely nothing. Pretty much garbage. MHH was another. Oh, on the Amex here. Yeah, no, another nothing. Yeah, 9,000 shares traded on the day. Yeah, maybe not the best here in terms of a halters. But let's see what Adara has to say.
Take a look at this S&P 500 here and talk about the larger moves to the upside and the downside as we, I guess, are halfway through the final power hour of this trading week. I always like to have a theme for this sector, so we're actually going to be talking about some larger upside and downside movers, specifically in the technology services sector. And we have to start with Adobe. This is Adobe. Adobe here continuously rejecting that 460 level, down about 3%. This is a day 2 earnings move for ADBE. In case you missed it, they did report okay numbers for the current quarter, but their guidance for the forward quarter was not as high as expected. Then we had ServiceNow here, NOW, down about 2.5%. They're trying to find a bit of a rounded bottom. They got a downgrade from KeyBank despite a price target increase from Mizuho. It looks like investors reacted more to the downgrade than that price target increase, and we had a sell-off for NOW. Last but not least, actually an upside name in this sector, it's going to be MTC8. This is Match Group. In case if you recall, they actually had their investor day earlier this week. Evercore ISI lowering their price target of the stock, but MTCH still climbing higher here, up around 2 1/3%, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe.
Thank you very much, Adara. And thank you very much, Nick Dubs. Nick W in the chat here. Dropping the super chat. Hey, we appreciate all the views. We appreciate the super chats. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and share with your friends. And that'll make us all very happy. And then spread the love. You know, like keep it positive in the chat. Keep it positive, helping each other out there. But you're asking specifically, Nick, about thoughts for Joby on a swing, bull flag setup. Seems to be moving off the bottom of the flag. Okay, so yes, bull flag setup. I get it. There's your hold of the bottom. Consolidation already broke once. Goes into prior high, breaks that, then holds the prior high. So there's your consolidation. Now, the only thing I would say is seems to be moving off the bottom of the flag. Okay, it's up 2% and distinctly holding the bottom of that flag. That's the only difference that I would make. I'll tell you straight out, I don't swing trade very often, but I'll tell you 10 times out of 10 or 9 times out of 10, I'm looking for this or that. Like if I don't get it breaking the consolidation, like if I'm buying the dip into the prior high, ideally I want something like that or something into here, which it never gave you. This is just a breakout trade. But this one here, back into this prior level, that's the dip that I like. I hate the ones out and about because I feel like it's so easy for you to just get rinsed and then have it go. So I understand what you're getting at here. These are not my favorite. These guys are Joby's what are those eVTOLs? What do we call them? Those flying. There's a name for it that's slipping my mind because it's like it's late on a Friday.
Drone sector.
Yeah, you guys, you can look it up. But I see what you're getting at with the setup there, Nick Dubs. I just tend to not prefer those ones. It's a good short flow, 17%. It's really not that bad, but for me, it's a bit of a pass technically. But let's go handle some business.
Yeah. So eSignal. Trade smarter, not harder, and upgrade to an elite trading experience. Analyze, strategize, capitalize, foresee profitable opportunities with the platform that you need. Infinite data, instant trading, know where the market is moving before others with lightning fast data. Better backtesting and scanning, predict the future by understanding the past. Reliable real-time data, up-to-the-second market information from hundreds of global markets. Everything you need all in one place, so don't miss a beat. Execute your best trades now. Ready to elevate your trading? Scan the QR code or check the link in the description below. So, yeah, definitely some historical data can definitely be a little bit of an edge sometimes. I think
oftentimes.
Yeah, that's what I'm realizing as well. I guess a little bit today as well. Back testing for certain types of things can provide you with a little bit of confidence or confluence for the trade ideas that you may already have. And oh boy. Here it comes, 226 is coming right back in after a flush of 228s, going into the second half hour of power hour right now on AVGO as the market takes to the upside. So a little distinctly different, maybe finally some profit taking. But am I going to try to revert this with 30 minutes? Absolutely not. Why?
25.
Because, Neil, my data tells me for mean reversions, for things, especially for things that are all-time highs trending up into the end of the day, but things that are trending up into the end of the day, more often than not, probably not the best time. Not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't. You know what?
To me, it has to happen before the final half an hour. That said, Archer, we just trailed out of the last of it. It did a bottoming tail candle. We moved our stop to break even, which I said I was going to do anyways. But you got to be able to take the profit. And it got to first support. Held, bottoming tail, held again. Then it got to second support. We sat there. It could not break second support. You can't get stubborn about these things. Ultimately, it would be nice if it had pulled all the way back into VWAP. That'd be great. But you got to accept it. Sometimes you just got to get out. You know, like take the win that's there and not try to force it. You hit a ball into the gap. Sometimes it's a triple. Sometimes it's a double. And you got to understand if you get thrown out at third base, then you have zero chance of scoring. So we'll end up getting out of it. I keep seeing AMD in the chat, so I want to make sure we got to the Archer trade. I'm not in anything now. Maybe something sets up at the end of the day. AMD was a good trail out. I'm not going to complain about it. Maybe you can get back into VWAP. Not so boring just says AMD is a buy at 100, right?
What?
At 100?
What do you mean?
If AMD gets to $100? Yeah, if I'll put yes. I mean, not often that you look at the chart and be like, this stock is in a downward trend. I'd probably be a buyer down there. Yeah, I feel like I'd probably buy it at $100. I think I'd buy it down. Support's underneath 100 on the daily chart. I'm just going to throw that out there. But I generally prefer to buy things, things that are trending down. I like to buy after they've bounced. And I also believe in taking profit when they do so. So like when we were just talking about the swing trade, like the only recent swing trade I have was Snowflake, where there's your rounded bottom, there's your higher low holding VWAP, there's it breaking the trend here in this consolidation, so that's your long, and then there's your move into 180 where you take some profit. Now this can't be a loser on Snowflake at this point. If it loses the 200 period, I'd definitely be out of the rest of it. Let's go to Adara.
Couple tickers to watch here on the ahead of this potential NASDAQ inclusion announcement. So from this list here, I am seeing it again. This does not mean any of these will or will not be included in the NASDAQ, but these are the ones that are being speculated to potentially be announced as included. These are Palantir, PLTR, Equinix, EQIX, Sanofi, SNY, MicroStrategy, MSTR, Axon Enterprise, AXON, United Airlines, UAL, NetEase, NTES, JD.com, which is JD, TCOM. We also have Arginex here, ARGX, and Alnylam, ALNY. Of these, the two that I've seen floated around the most as potential NASDAQ inclusions are Palantir, MicroStrategy, and Axon. All three of those were actually specifically highlighted by Bloomberg Intelligence as very likely inclusions. So keep an eye on AXOM, MSTR, and PLTR for a potential NASDAQ inclusion announcement tonight. Though, as I mentioned earlier, that does not mean any of these necessarily will be included, only that they're definitely on watch. Back to you.
Thank you, Adara. And the reason Palantir is at the top of the list, not just because of the run that it's been on, it is, I believe, it's the biggest name listed on the NASDAQ not in it. So I feel like it would make sense that it's at the top of the list. I feel if there isn't an inclusion, if there isn't an inclusion, the two names that I think are under the most pressure, one, MSTR, there's way too many people hoping that one does it. And then, of course, Palantir as well. Like, if it doesn't happen, I mean, what are you going to do? Why? I'm assuming Broadcom probably just...
Yeah, it just tanked.
Pull back.
Just tanked. 30-minute prior bar finally broke after we got that bid from anchored VWAP. So that flush comes in. Classic. But yeah, no, what I was saying earlier is like, yeah, no, my data just shows me that it's maybe not the best time to revert. Doesn't necessarily mean the reversion may will or will not be there. You could still have a great reversion at the end of the day, but it might not be the best over time over a different set of samples. There is what I mean there. But yeah, we're pulling back right into 225s, and guess where we catch a bid? We do break that 225 a little bit, but reclaiming that going into the close. VWAPs all the way down here at 218. Let's see how some of these imbalances come out in the next 8 minutes. Market's kind of just chip chopping here since about, what is this? Since about 2:30 here. So just over an hour, we've just been trading sideways here on the NASDAQ, just hovering above and below this 21,800. So nothing doing here on the NASDAQ, but there are other tickers that have a little bit of a trend. Again, Bitcoin kind of back up near its day highs right here, trading at 101,885, and the high of day was 101,859. So that ticker is picking right back up as well. And yeah, I guess some of the crypto names may be doing some moves as well, but there is, wow, look at that. There is a earnings name that is ripping up into the close right now as I'm watching it. So aggressive bid coming in on RH. So look at that. It kind of breaking through this intraday high at, what is this, 444.41s, and then high a day coming in at 457.23s. We're trading at 449.70s right now, so only about 7 points away from day highs, opening range highs as well. But yeah, that's an aggressive pull up again in the last half hour with expanding volume, doing relative volume into the close here. So yeah, Again, don't forget this is an earnings day one name, and I don't think I put an anchored on this this ticker last night. So let's see what we did in and around anchored. Yeah, so I guess it's relatively similar to where anchored or the regular VWAP is, but you can see it's held as a bit of resistance, and coming into the end of the day, no longer resistance, getting a little bit of a pull up, pushing past some of these prior levels here, trading at 450 now on RH. How much volume did this thing do on the day here? 2.5 million, which is pretty decent, seeing that it only averages about a 700K on the daily, on the 30-day average volume on RH. So a nice little move on that ticker. Again, earnings day one. As that comes in, let's see what, I guess we were looking for a continuation on Lovesac. Didn't really come in. It gave you a little bit off of the open there, a little bit of continuation, but that trend breaks down quite nicely, and then reverts right back up to what may seem like maybe an anchored from earnings. Yeah, see, this is where you can see that it kind of resets the regular anchored resets, so that 2-day anchored or 2-day VWAP or an anchored VWAP may be a better indicator of where average volume might be sitting at. Again, with reference to that earnings reaction as well, right? So still trading well below some of those levels here, and yeah, look at that. We're still holding this 225 on play. Sorry, not on play, on Broadcom, but play was the next one I was looking at here, just to do a little bit of some cleanup in terms of looking at names that we were looking at in the morning session, and see what they've done on the day here, with only about 15 minutes left into the close. Play is actually about to break out to the upside.
No way.
As of right now, so it did kind of it did break that downtrend right off of the open with that aggressive bid. Nice little flush down to 26 halves, and then printing close to high of day as of right now. But other than that, I don't really see anything too crazy.
The imbalance locators doesn't have much of anything either.
Yeah, imbalance. The early looks probably
it's a little. Had there been something big on the early looks for the imbalances, we would have let you know, like YMM, which I don't know, it's like some $11, probably like a SPAC or something. That's nothing. BAC's is a buy imbalance of 2.4 million, but that always pairs off. SU's a buy imbalance of 1.5 million. WFC's in there, but there's no big names. I mean, Archer is there for a small buy of, but that's actually this morning. Yeah, there's actually literally nothing. Maybe we'll see something at 350 that comes out of nowhere, but look at Palantir go. So it's still going, and see, this is the fun part about it is, and you can check, trust me, you can check my note on Twitter this morning. Like I was going to take this breakout. That was part of the trading plan for Palantir. It was, hey, just trend up, take the double top breakout. With everything going on, I thought that was going to be the play. And then it turned into the other side of the trade, which was it's just been rejecting 75. If it doesn't make the break, just short it when it fails 75. Fails 75 like almost to a T, and then held 75 on a dime. So the trade ended up being a short, where really what I wanted was to play that long breakout that just hasn't happened here on Palantir. And this is an easy answer here for you, travel trader. Are you looking to short Palantir again? Nope. And as I was saying before, this trade short this morning it wasn't about the high of the day. If anything, I was going to take the breakout. It was simply the manner in which it was failing above 75, like fail above 75, short 75. Fail above 75, short under 75. There doesn't even get back up to it. It was more about if it did the same thing, which is present me with a chance to short after it's failed 75, then I would go ahead and do it. So that was, and it's too late in the day. I'm not taking a breakout trade at this price. I think ultimately, if you're looking for an announcement to come after market that they're being added, well, then a lot of the alpha in that trade is going to be the aftermarket. So as somebody who A, is going to be getting up to go to the desk in 5 minutes, or just over 5 minutes, and B, I'm not holding it and trading in the aftermarket, then buying it here doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense. I think if you've got execution and you are executing the aftermarket and you have a solid risk plan and you've got all the gateways and all that kind of good stuff, I think obviously that's a different story. But I'm not going to take this top end break, and it looks like it is going to go. Just going to zoom it out a little bit further. You have yesterday's high and today's high, which line up here for the high of the day break. but the high back from Tuesday is 75.60. So you've got the local high, then 20 cents higher, you've got this 60 high, which is also something, I guess, to be respected. Yeah, so worth watching here. Palantir into the close. I'll probably keep my eyes on this in case there's an imbalance. What else are you going to watch? And Palantir is moving. I'll have MSTR up as well on the off chance it does something. Not that I'm expecting any fireworks in those two names, but imbalances in about 30 seconds, Obi.
Yeah, so got to keep an eye on these imbalances, but yeah, not really expecting too much here. I hear Brankles in the back talking about Palantir. Wow, yeah, breaking high of day right now, currently going into these imbalances. So I got to take a look at these imbalances, Neil, just to see if there's anything interesting or spicy that may or may not show up. But like we said, you know, expect nothing, but be prepared for everything, maybe. Let's see what these imbalances have in store for us today. TLT with a 5.5 million sell. Oh boy.
That's kind of big for TLT.
Let's go over to Neil's screen.
Yeah, we got TLT leading the way. That's not what anybody expected. 5.5 million sell on TLT. IQ, which is a $2 stock, that has a sell imbalance of 4 million. So that's it. Sabre in there for a couple of million sell. PAA is a sell for 2 million. Over 1 million shares on a bigger name. You've got Intel for 1 million to the buy side. That's it. You got the SPY as a sell for 900,000. WBA's got a buy of 800,000. Alphabet, there you go, 750 to the sell side. Broadcom, 740 to the sell side. So nothing big, nothing. Wow. Wow, Palantir.
Yep. So that thing's blasting. So that it's like squeezing.
MC, no
looks like a bit of a squeeze.
Can't short that. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. And don't worry, like we're going to have this up in the aftermarket show. What Darren and I are going to have, we'll be watching Palantir, obviously MSTR, any of those names, all of these. Like certainly they're going to be in play. Whether or not, look, don't at me if they don't get included. They just could be. There could be an announcement they get included to the NASDAQ 100. I think Palantir is the most likely of the group of names that's being speculated, but nothing is a guarantee. It's just all probabilities here. I think it's the highest probability. That's just my opinion. And I just saw in the chat from Robbie V, now MSTR goes. We took our shot on MSTR in the consolidation. It didn't work, and now it wants to break out with like 7 minutes to go. So MSTR starting to run higher. Squeeze them. You know, you can short stocks as a day trader, but at the end of the day, most people root for stocks to go up. I tend to be in that camp. I'll trade just about anything in any direction, but you know, ultimately you want stocks to go up. So I'm not one of those I'm not a hater. And MSTR, man, if you can, this has got a nice looking wedge, man. I'm just saying, you've got a steep wedge down and a nice shallow wedge up. You break something like that, like if it breaks the downside, you're like, yeah, you might get down to here. But if you break the upside, squeeze them. I have no issues.
Definitely.
I'm not short the stock. My problem.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, what's a short float on that you said?
Oh, MSTR. Let me double check.
No, not on MSTR, on PLT.
I thought we're on Palantir.
Yeah, Palantir.
MSTR is about 12.5%. Palantir, I actually have no idea. Let me look it up. Is that right? No, it can't be right. Let me check another source. Is it 3.6? Seems.
What's happening there?
Yeah, that seems like it's a little bit low. Let me double check another source.
Wow, look at Adobe. People, somebody in the chat pointing out Adobe. Jameson.
It is only 3.7.
In the chat pointing out Adobe. Look at this squeeze. There's this turn happening on Adobe off of what is this? Off of imbalances, right here. Yeah, I guess. Well, going into the imbalances, strong volume coming in through that 460 and then ripping right back up. Tesla through its almost through its day highs as of right now as well. And yeah, we did get a nice little pullback here on AVGO down, and we finally broke that 225s, coming into 223s, going into the close. So yeah, I guess if you took that the break of that shelf there, it was a little choppy there, but it came in, it gave you a little bit of a drip drop going into the close. Nowhere near VWAP as of right now, but then again, we have about 7 minutes left. But yeah, wow, look at this. Adobe is still going, man. What's going on with this Adobe? We just printed up another point there. 465 and running right here. So prior highs right there. And Fabian saying it's because he bought yesterday. Fair enough. Fair enough. I guess they saw that Fabian bought whoever they is, but and it's sticking up on that. Google though. Google is breaking its day low going into the close as of right now, so that's a little distinctly different. And NVIDIA still sideways. Tesla just broke fresh highs just now.
All-time highs. Let's put some respect on it.
Fresh highs.
All-time highs. ATH, baby, we're at an all-time high. Yeah, we'll take it. And Palantir, like these names that are potentially, let me just keep saying potentially included in the NASDAQ, Palantir just tagged $76 and continues to go higher. It's blowing it out. With only about 5 minutes to go, there were no big imbalances for them to pair off, but we'll keep it up at 355 just to see what does happen here. So when it does get to 55, maybe something pops up. MSTR is also moving, of course. That's another one that could potentially get included. I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, TLT paired off a little bit there. IQ paired off a little bit. NVIDIA is now a buy of 1 million, so that's the only thing that popped up out of nowhere. So NVIDIA wasn't on the bounce. Look at it. MSTR continues its breakout. Tesla continues to go to all-time highs. Palantir continues to go to fresh highs as well. These are not all-time highs for Palantir. Could go back into the 80 level, but it is breaking out and continuing a pretty impressive run there. So we'll have it covered for you guys. You know, we'll see what happens, and no guarantees that everybody gets what they want when it comes to the conclusion. But Adair and I are going to be on the desk to make sure we can walk you through any announcements that happen after the close. So the speculation, the buyers are in. They're buying up Palantir. I mean, they're buying up MSTR. Tesla was kind of already strong anyways, and they're in the indexes. Doesn't really matter, but it's going to be a wild aftermarket show. I got to go.
Currently buying Adobe as well.
Adobe as well. Finally a bottom there, Fabian.
Yeah.
Good luck. I'm going to mosey on up to the desk. Thank you for filling in for Sean. We'll catch you guys at the desk in a couple of minutes with a market recap.
Don't go anywhere, guys. We have about 4 minutes left until the close here. Let me. I gotta get this. The stream deck going for the countdown timer. Can't forget that. I always do a little bit of delay on that, but not happening today. But 224 is coming in on AVGO. 436 is here on Tesla, and the market's pretty much been consolidating where it has been over the past hour there, just still hovering around 21.8 as of right now. So nothing too crazy. Hopefully you guys had a solid trading day, a solid trading week as well. Definitely a lot of lessons to be learned on my part for sure. How to trade, how not to trade as well. A little bit of a tilt action going on there on my part. I think if again, I was sizing a little too aggressively below VWAP there when the trend was kind of coming down. I missed the reversion here when we double top, failed to follow through, and then pulled back in. Again, I think again, I need to be selling a little bit here. I need to be selling most, if not everything here, for a reversion to that VWAP here on AVGO when we do break back down below that 220 and then pull back in. We saw that anchored VWAP, so it's like, all right, why are you buying anywhere other than anchored or in and around VWAP after it's reclaimed, after it's shown you that the bid is coming in off of that VWAP, off of some of these earlier prices during the day as well. So definitely strong lessons to be learned on my part as well. I did have that anchored VWAP hold and the bounce that we had, break of trend as well, a bunch of entries, but again, didn't have enough, didn't hold well enough here. What is going on over there on the screen? So we kind of consolidated underneath 218. Okay, we got some interesting things going on there with the screen. Maybe we're testing out some things there. Yeah, no. Don't forget, earnings season is not over. We still got a bunch of earnings next week as well. So hopefully you guys are prepping for that over the weekend.
Sometimes it'd be like that.
And solid earnings season this week as well, or in the middle of earnings this week as well. So we had some pretty decent names there. Of course, AVGO, one of the big ones there. We had some strong news events as well. We had Google earlier on this week. We have Tesla that's been kind of pushing towards its highs. This market is hot, guys. And apparently Fartcoin also with a market cap of 700 million. So, you know, some interesting times that we live in. I wonder when the backside is going to come in on that one. But I'm definitely going to be, sniffing that one out on that ticker there. So we'll see how that one comes in. But again, we only have a minute to go. And yeah, I know I usually ask what you guys have traded going into the close here, but with a minute left, I guess you guys can throw it in, and I'll take a look at it a little bit later there. But again, thank you all for joining us. And as I said before, don't go anywhere, guys. We have Neil and Adara at the desk giving you your market recap for the day. Now, I don't know how we're stacked for earnings for tonight. I don't think there's anything too significant. There's none, Adara says. Thank you. So yeah, we'll talk about how this week kind of went and what happened in the market today. Absolutely crazy, wild moves there. Yeah, I see the chat going out. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna be sniffing out for where's the next trade? It could be the next trade, right? So only about 10 seconds left here. I'm gonna start this timer down a little bit there. So with Dara at the bell, don't forget, brought to you by Worksport WKSP 4, 3, 2, and 1. There you go. There is the bell, guys. So thank you all for spending your time with us today. Hopefully you guys were entertained. Are you not entertained? Leave it in the chat there. But hopefully you learned a thing. You learned a thing or two. I know I definitely did. The market is always humbling me and always teaching me. Oh boy, some strong lessons every day, right? So that's what we're here for. Trying to get a little bit better every day. Just about that 1%, right? Just 1% a little bit better every day, and that is the journey that we are on as not necessarily just traders, just day traders, but traders in general. So I think they are ready for us at the desk there. So I will be sending you guys over. I'll see you guys next week, so stick around. Don't go anywhere. Have a great weekend. See ya.
Thank you very much, Obi. Welcome to the market recap today. Joined by Adara. Thank you very much. And it's been a wild one, and what a close. Especially if you're Palantir, especially if you're Tesla, especially if you're Adobe, MSTR as well. So the speculation, of course, that you will potentially get an announcement for some NASDAQ 100 editions, Palantir being, I think, front and center, MSTR being the one I think there's the most hope for, if for lack of a better term. But just to start off, at the end of the day, it was very clear, very, very clear. Palantir trending up into the close in anticipation of that. You also had MSTR doing a very similar thing going into the close, where it finally broke out the 405, where somebody was holding it down and they couldn't hold it down forever. Whoa, wait a minute. SMCI just tanked Aftermarket here, so I don't know if you have anything.
Not seeing anything yet.
I'm not seeing anything yet on MSCI. Sorry, not SMCI. MSCI. SMCI just dropped 36 to 33. Trying to catch a little bit of a bid here. I haven't seen, maybe, would they have dropped their earnings? Could that be what's happening here?
I'm not seeing anything yet.
I'm not seeing anything on SMCI
the second
either.
I see anything, I will let you guys know.
That's not looking good.
Anything yet? Monolithic Power announced a fourth quarter dividend. I highly doubt that's moving SMCI, but they're both in that like semi-related space. So, je ne sais pas. I will be keeping my eye out. The second I hear anything, I will interrupt and I will let you all know. I will put it in the chat as well. But as of right now,
so look, I'm seeing a few things circulating on X.
I found it.
They're said to. Okay, go ahead.
I think I'm seeing the same thing as you. I'm seeing something circulating on X here, and then I have officially found it on Bloomberg as well. So that adds a lot of credulity to this. SMCI is said to tap Evercore to raise capital, and they're considering raising equity and debt, as reported by Bloomberg.
And there you go. And again, when you see it on X, I like to have it confirmed by another source before we're trying to say it to you guys. But certainly, that is the truth. The other thing, and this is another good point here. Bbot. What could happen? Could SMCI be the quickest to jump into an index and then jump out? That's another pressure that could get put on it for sure. So SMCI, little bounce back into 35. Just to go over, if you're not familiar with the chart or what it's looked like, yes, it has not been good since they got the extension. It's bounced off the bottoms. Complete rejection of the $50 level. It's now lost the 50-period moving average again underneath $36. So. And once again, the chart does not look very good for SMCI. Palantir's still making fresh highs and still going. I have heard anything. I have not heard anything official on Palantir. I've heard nothing on MSTR as well. They are still looking pretty strong. Palantir looking very, very strong into the close. Now up 4.5%. MicroStrategies, not as strong, but it's up at 410. It's also at its highs of the day in the aftermarket. So there's nothing specific that has come out yet. Palantir is flying. I think between the two, this is the one to watch there, Adara. When you look at what happened with the overall market, for Palantir to have 4.5 day, you know what the catalyst is, and it's certainly not that we got a bunch of market exuberance or anything like that today, because the Qs ended up pulling back at the end of the day. And once again, you zoom it in here a little bit, we have a little bit of a topping tail candle. The Qs just stalled out at the highs. The Qs themselves, not a lot of market action to the upside today. It obviously had some individual names, and that's what you had to do today. You had to trade or at least look at what was strong. That's why you're focused on a Palantir. That's why if you weren't trading Broadcom, huge on earnings, we'll get to that in a second. Tesla with another fresh all-time high. And it just keeps going and going and going. It's officially almost a double up there on Tesla from the earnings lows. Another big, strong day for them. But what really took the cake was Broadcom. Understandably, it sold off a little bit at the end of the day, but the uptrend was unabated. A little bit of a mean reversion and a pullback. But when you pull up the daily chart, it broke out in a big way off the daily, and now 24% we ended up with for Broadcom. So just to recap, you see what's strong. It's terrible about SMCI. It did feel like maybe they were getting on the comeback trail a little bit. But yeah, capital raise, sending it back into the downside. It's now down 8%. It's holding 35, at least temporarily.
Yeah. And I also want to put out here, too, thank you to some people in the chat mentioning this. I've confirmed this. So the NASDAQ is set, so that doesn't mean they're necessarily going to, but they're set to announce their changes, if there are any changes, at 8 p.m. Eastern. So we're not going to get that announcement until 8 p.m. Eastern. I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for letting us know about that, because I was not quite sure. I know the S&P 500, I think, is a little bit slightly earlier. I know in the past we've gotten them around 5 or 6, but yes. NASDAQ apparently 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. So by Monday, I'm sure the watch list will be full of whatever fun goodies we have. And I think one thing is worth noting, too. I want to shout out Rivian Millionaire in the chat who mentioned Axon Enterprises, which is one of the ones that's been floated around as a potential NASDAQ inclusion, selling off a little bit at close. You can kind of see here this push to the downside with volume. I actually, what I said in the chat and what I stand by is I don't think that necessarily is a sign people know it's not going to get included. Because look what happened to Workday. Workday was included in the S&P 500, and it sold off. So people involved in Axon could just be worried that regardless of what happens, you could sell off, because AppLovin wasn't included in the SPY. They sold off. Workday was included in the SPY. They sold off. So my theory is if you're involved in Axon, you might worry that it's a little bit of a sell the news event, especially if you've seen what this thing has done since the election. Sharif talked about this on his, I know when you guys do that weekend segment, and this is a really strong look. So if, especially with it like hovering around support like this, around that 633, I can totally understand someone wanting to sell in case of a sell the news. That's my take. Again, I have no knowledge, but I just wanted to put that out there because that's my analysis of that. Put it in the chat. I want to say it out here as well.
It is a good point, because if you start thinking about names that have, get added to the indexes, like Uber joined the S&P 500, and a lot of times when you think about like a sell the news type of event, well, okay, well, where do you think, just looking at this chart, where do you think Uber joined the S&P 500? It ended up being the top. And sometimes it's about like how far something runs into the news. That would be the concern with Palantir. Okay, well, if you think that this is a new story that Palantir would get included, it was for the longest time, it took a year longer than everyone around here thought they would be added to the S&P. Then they made the shift to the NASDAQ specifically to be added to the NASDAQ, and it's been a couple of weeks since then. So this has been anticipated, and it's already gone 25 points up to the highs and sold at the 80 level. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit if it were to get to 80 in the aftermarket on exuberance and then just pull back off that level. That wouldn't shock me for sure there. And that's sort of the thing. And I see in the chat there, beer producer, shout out to you and shout out to everybody in our chat. I mean, I got the feeling the NQ100 inclusion is already priced in a Palantir. Oftentimes, these things do get priced in. the stock, what do you want from the stock? Since August, it's a quadruple when it got to 80. From the $40 level, we're just talking about the beginning of November, it's a double. So is it priced in? There's at least a reasonable expectation that it's priced in. I don't think that's anything crazy for sure. And anything can happen in the aftermarket. I mean, this is one of the reasons we bring Jeff on from OTC. Like, it gets exciting to have multiple venues to be able to trade later on in the session. The ability to be able to trade 8, 9, 10 o'clock when you have news on some of these names is going to be exciting. That's why OTC Moon is around and Blue Ocean is around. Those give you some opportunities. Sanity's Eclipse. I like that one. But you know why I'm not? Neil Jenkins. I'm not. Because I stick to the plan. Don't be a Leroy Jenkins. Not every time do I stick to my plan. I'm a human being like everybody else. But yeah, when you're a trader, don't be a Leroy Jenkins. Stick to your trading plan for sure. And a couple of things going on here. I know we're sort of tracking these names. We're not expecting an announcement, as Adara said, but we don't mind looking at what the money is telling you going into it. So MSTR still breaking out a little bit. Palantir still looking a little bit strong here, holding on to some of those highs. I'm not expecting that you'll get crazy action. I think the local story on SMCI probably will give it a little bit more movement and a little bit more juice. But just, it's a market recap, so I want to make sure we go over a few other things here. We didn't really talk too much about the Chinese ADRs and the down move that they had today. And I think it's a disappointment for anybody that took or is holding on to the stimulus trade. Because all that happened is you got a breakout, a pullback, and then another failed break on FXI. And I'm looking at you, Alibaba, for trying to break trend and doing absolutely nothing with it again. The good news is it didn't really break down. It kind of recovered off of the lows and just ended up a little bit sideways when you got to the end of the day. But yeah, that little breakout or reversion that you're looking for from the stimulus entry point, we're not really bouncing off of that yet. So FXI still firmly in the penalty box for me. The other thing worth watching, we mentioned this the other day, I think it was just yesterday on URA, uranium, has now pulled back into the 200 period moving average. URA right at that 200 period moving average at $29. So losing this, I think, would be a bad sign. I'd watch out for some of the small modular names. You could find yourself with a buying opportunity if you're not into things like NEE or SMR, the names that I like. But yeah, running into a little bit of pressure here on URA. But I have to ask you something, Adara.
Do you know?
And this is a bit of a cheat because you were talking about Broadcom earlier.
I was.
It's wild to me that Broadcom was such a wild stock.
Yeah.
I never got the trade I wanted to off the open. I ended up focused on a bunch of other things today. Ultimately, probably for the best. But unbelievable day for a name that's so big in the indexes.
Yeah.
For it to have had the day it had was incredibly impressive. I know you traded it. We know Obi was trading it.
Yeah.
So how did you fare on Broadcom today?
I fared all right. I was like negative on it. I traded 3 names today. I took one stab at Costco, which I have to say I'm proud of because you got to do what you got to do on that. And I took a really small size, so I was responsible with it. You know what I mean? I figured the slippage would get me, which it did. I got slipped 80 cents on Broadcom with my stop, or sorry, not Broadcom, Costco with my stop, so it is what it is. And then Adobe actually went pretty well, though, as I was telling Neil off screen. And I'll show you guys my 30-minute chart on Adobe after because it's hilarious. I literally got wicked out. I got stopped out at the lows. I was long 458.60. I got stopped out 458.10s, and then we closed around 466. So things happen sometimes. But here are my Broadcom trades. So basically, I liked here, there was a lot of levels that I liked in the book. Basically, we had that this is around this 416.30 area I really liked. Initially, I was trying to short here. That was around VWAP at the time. I ended up getting stopped out. I only risked like 30 cents because of how Broadcom was moving. Like you said, it was wild. I wanted to be tight. I don't also trade a lot of stocks like this, so I wanted to keep that in mind as well. Then another level I really liked here is that 215 to 217. There were all these little mini ranges that the book was showing you, so I basically played those. Tried to get short. If I had given this like 2 cents more, I would not have gotten stopped out. Alas, I did get stopped out. It is what it is. You can't get discouraged. When another opportunity sets up, you got to go for it. So, like I said, I still like that 216.30. That was my initial short. I got long 216.30, risking here into that 215.80. So basically the same area I got stopped out before. That worked. I find with spready stocks, I find there's two ways that you can really know if you're right off the bat. A, if it works right away, or B, if it immediately tests your stop and bounces, or rejects if you're short. That's not always the case, but that I really liked anyway. So I got part out here, just shy of 217s, the rest out 217.30s, which is, you can tell, a little bit of rejection. Then I added at 217.30s, got out half of my current position around 218, stopped out the rest at 217.30s. Proud of what I did with the trade because I was just working off of these levels that I witnessed on the book, right? I was taking my normal trading style, which is, Broadcom was a little spready, or it generally is, so it worked out. So just taking my normal trading style and applying it to this stock that's moving really quickly.
Can you stay on this chart for one quick
Please.
second?
Yes.
Stay on that chart.
Yes.
So see the long you have, right? Those outs, the outs on that, and then then you're entering where you were taking the profit at the previous high. You see how like that consolidation area where you're in the long, but it doesn't extend from there?
Yeah.
Then go a little bit further. It makes a lower. It makes another.
Yeah.
It makes another low.
That's the same level too.
So you know the area that it was consolidating.
Yes.
Then it makes another higher low.
And then it.
Then it gives the third time. Now you've got 3 consecutive higher lows right into the buy area that you liked before. And so what I always try to tell myself is, if the first time, and this is on trend because the trend is up. If the first time on trend you like that price area and it even started going for you and it kind of was working, but then it fails.
Yeah.
But then from there, it makes a higher low, tests again, makes a higher low, tests again, then gives you that exact same tight range that you were trading in before. If you liked it before, it's even more bullish now.
That's what I realized.
And I've always told myself, if I like a setup at a specific price, in a specific direction, and it's more bullish when it gets there the second time, then there's no excuse for me not taking the trade again. And it's the same thing for the short side of the trade. Now, it could be, if it gets to that price and the setup is bearish, then you don't have to be in it, but that's actually a more bullish setup. And obviously, hindsight being 20/20, you can see that it broke out.
Yeah.
But yeah, and again, it just goes to show you're trading the right area. I wanted to, well, I don't know I didn't see anything on PayPal. That's why I wanted to get at here. But unless I'm reading it wrong, PayPal has moved a little bit in the aftermarket.
I'm not seeing it.
Ultimately, this could just be a bunch of nonsense, but you did have a bit of a rinse, a couple of dollars, and then a bounce up on PayPal. It's now running a little bit. And again, I haven't seen anything at all, but there is some movement in PayPal. Just wanted to throw that out there. And nothing too, it's not going crazy, but there was a little bit of action there in the close. And it seems to be going back into the green here in PayPal. So if anyone's wondering what's going on there, I am also wondering. I have not seen anything on the wire about PayPal. Obviously, there's a lot of names that ran. We get a lot of questions. Man, there's so many people that ask us about NVIDIA and AMD and the chip names. Well, there's a reason why Broadcom was at the top of the watch list today.
Yes.
There's a reason, I mean, look, it's up 25%. And I said earlier, if you're willing to be short these names and take short trades on this, then you're not complaining about the price action in NVIDIA. You're not complaining about the price action in AMD. If you're only willing to go long NVIDIA is not in your market right now. You know, ultimately, yeah, in the long term, it's got a good trend, but since earnings, lower high, bit of a trend down, and again, another trend down. It was another one of those days where unless you somehow magically knew that the bottom was going to be down here, you get a bit of a win. It's a hard trade to be in. Obviously, it doesn't mean reversion, but doesn't give a home run. The play has just been the short trade on these. And now you're testing, let me just show you how long the trend, like this trend, the August low. Where's the fail button? Is this the fail button? You know why I'm hitting the fail for myself? Because I just said, here's what I just said. And you don't have to rewind because I'm going to repeat myself. Unless you magically knew that the bottom was going to be 132.5, then you couldn't have won in the long. And then I proceeded to go over to a daily chart of NVIDIA where I literally have the trend line from the August low drawn. And any guesses where the bottom line's up today? 132.50. So why is that a fail for me? Well, it's a fail for me because I'm looking at that trend line. So ultimately, I probably should have taken a couple of shots at that long today. Now, arguably, I thought other things were better longs. It is what it is. Things were trending. Tesla was a better trend trade today, so fair enough. But look, That's the August low. There's the lower high. It literally retested that today. And that was your bounce spot. And this is one of the reasons why I like trend lines. But again, if you're ever drawing trend lines, just make sure you have somewhere you're connecting them. And a lot of times it only works. The reason why it works is psychological. Because a bunch of other people have drawn the trend line too. It's on an upward trend, so people want to look for reasons where they should buy NVIDIA. That's part one of why it works. Part two is it's an obvious place to start looking for a bottom on that August panic bottom. And then the other part of it is, well, it's in a cascade to the downside, so it's looking for a place to relieve the pressure, and it happens at a spot that everyone's drawn a line on the chart, and then it's like everybody just sort of together stops selling. And it has more to do with the fact that sellers don't want to sell at a support line.
Yeah.
Generally, you don't want to sell the bottom, theoretically. So people stop selling more so than the buyers coming in per se, and that's why you only get a bit of a shallow balance. But there's not a lot of earnings today, by the way, and a lot of people that are asking like when is the Q's going to make the announcement?
8 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, we're expecting 8. It'll be 8 p.m. So it's all speculation at this point
Everything
on
is
Palantir.
yeah.
It's all speculation on MSTR. Obviously, a lot of money is betting that it is going to go to the upside. I'm just throwing some caution, and it's been said that they could be a little bit priced in. So I think you got to be a little bit careful here.
Well, I was even saying this to people in the chat. I was just reading there's a lot of people in the market. I was seeing this on CNBC, some of the analysts they talked to, warning that should Palantir get added to the NASDAQ, that could be the sign of a top for the tech sector. So then there's also some people in the chat saying, well, you know, Palantir continued to be bought up when it was added to the SPY. It's a very good point. I don't know. All I'm seeing is what I'm saying here, right? We don't really know what happens until it happens. Is completely cheesy and formulaic and trite as that sounds, that is the truth, right? So we're going to have to wait and find out what actually happens. But I think because of how, I guess, exponentially and how quickly it moved, I don't want to compare Palantir to SMCI in any way. They're radically different companies. But SMCI, we saw with that really speedy addition to the SPY. And then we started seeing issues. I can't say Palantir will or will not be the same. I'm not by any means a Palantir bear. I'm just saying I think it's interesting that people are a little bit concerned about what happens from here should Palantir get added. But again, we don't know until 8 p.m. maybe, because this is just when we're expecting the announcement. So that is my take on that. I know it's a little bit unpopular, but it's one of those things where like obviously there's funds that are going to have to buy it so that they can track. It's like it's made such a run. Some of that has probably already, some of that's happened. Some of that's happened, and some of the anticipation has certainly gone into this stock, no questions asked. As we were saying before, this is a double up from the beginning of November. It's been we're talking about 1 month, it's gone from 40 into like $77. It actually was up as high as 80. So, and you got to think about, and I understand like momentum matters much more than fundamentals. If all you cared about was PE, then nobody would have good prices on Amazon. Nobody would have good prices on Tesla. You would have never made money on that. Nobody would have ARM right now if you only cared about PE. People wouldn't be making money on Costco if you only cared about price earnings. Like Costco trades like probably, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's probably close to double the PE of Walmart, or at least something adjacent to that. It's insane. But it still keeps going up. And I think that's sort of the thing. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of a pullback in there. If anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. We're here to answer anything if you want. I see Palantir forever. Palantir should be below 30. It's overpriced now. 30 seems extreme. Look, Palantir's got a big trend line. And what I'm actually looking for on Palantir, and we were just showing a trend on NVIDIA, like if it loses the trend, if let's say it gets the inclusion and loses the trend, then I think just looking back into the 50-period moving average, and then why the 50, just have a look at the 50 period since the middle of the year. Or like from before, when it made the run at this high, back at $28, it hugged the 50-period moving average. I just think that's going to be a nice move back into there if it loses the trend line. Right now, that's like $55. 30 seems a little bit extreme. I think if it gets the inclusion, it's going to have a solid bid on it, regardless of how far it pulls back in, because there'll be some buying opportunities down in there. I see Crypto Boti asking about SoFi going sky high. We're getting there on SoFi. We're close. Not yet, but we're close. It's holding the consolidation. It's holding the bull flag. It's just not breaking out yet. So
It's a bit of a patience game. The play on SoFi already happened to get into the long. Like you made the bottoming tail, the $7 level held, you consolidated, you broke out. So your chance to break out at 11, your chance to break out off the $8.50 level, those have already come and gone. Now you're in that phase of SoFi where it's trying to consolidate, break out off the 16 level. So if you haven't, like I've taken some profit on SoFi because I was for a long time holding down here, and then when it popped before, I wouldn't take anything out. It didn't take anything out this time. Like I've been long SoFi. You got to go back. You got to go back into when it started bouncing down. I didn't even wait for the curl. I wait for the curl usually. I didn't wait for the curl on SoFi, so I've been holding it for a while. The first time it got to $7, I was buying the stupid thing. And now it's finally going. When it gives you a double up, I'm going to take something off pretty much every single time.
Nice.
But I like SoFi, but at some point you got to be able to take some profit there. And I just want to see, the realist has a good question here. And I want to get your thoughts on this too.
Okay.
Is there any news, I know you read a lot more, probably business news than even I do.
I read a lot, yeah.
Any news that could make the NASDAQ gap from market close tonight and Sunday's open, or does it always open the same price as it closes? So what I will say about this, the NASDAQ almost never opens where it closes. And as a matter of fact, the majority of gains in the market, regardless whether it's NASDAQ, whether it's the S&P 500, any index you want, pick it. Most of the gains actually occur in the aftermarket. So you're actually better off, if you were just buying the market every single day, you'd be better off long-term buying the close price than the open price in the long run. Like there's many studies and lots of stuff you can read about that. So absolutely there are things that could get announced. As to what specifically, who knows? Geopolitical stuff.
Yeah.
Trump could make announcements about who's going to be this person on the team or this person not on the team. Like that kind of thing can move the markets. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to say the geopolitical, exactly. I think one of the first big gap downs I experienced, because I started end of August 2023, it was going to be early October 2023. That was one of the first gap downs over the weekend that I noticed. That's when we had the situation start back up in Israel and the Middle East. So geopolitical is huge. Also huge is anything Donald Trump related. We know this is another, I guess, weekend gap pretty recently. The announcement that Scott Bessent, I don't know if that was the weekend, but either way, Scott Bessent being announced as potential, I guess, head there of the Treasury was another huge one for the market because that was viewed as very bullish. We had a lot of gaps up. So as Neil said, there are Trump-related announcements. Also, there's, I think, a lot of positive catalysts in all or even just one of the Mag 7 names. Those can really move the market. If you think about how strong the Qs were in the morning, there were really two names that were moving that. It was Broadcom and Tesla. But they're both also larger constituents of the NASDAQ, right? So I would say it really is all kind of comparative. If you have something that's a larger constituent making a large move to the upside or to the downside, that could sometimes be what happens there. But usually it's catalyst related. Sometimes it's really not. It really is going to depend on the context, on what the market's already been doing. And yeah, I guess generally what sentiments are feeling like that, I would say is huge. But I would say like another really distinct example, I have to bring up August 5th. That to me is probably one of the largest examples of a massive weekend gap. I'm going to pull it up in TradingView because or you know what?
Massive buy opportunity.
Yeah, right? Well, that's true too, right? But I'm going to pull up, you asked about the Qs, I'll pull up the Qs. But we have the Qs here. I'm going to pull up the daily chart for August 5th because that was a massive gap down. It's probably the biggest gap down. Yeah, there we go. So this is August 1st, then we get that August 2nd, and then we get the August 5th gap down. So I think like really an example here of things can fully gap down in the weekend. It really depends. And this catalyst, we didn't even figure out at first. It was the yen carry trade. It was something that didn't even really theoretically have anything to do with what's happening in the US market, though there was also some speculation it had to do with NFPs. So to answer your question in a very long-winded way, I do apologize. It's usually a confluence of factors, shout out to Obi, and you really have to kind of take time, figure out what could be moving it, because really in the end, we never know for sure. It's always gonna be some element of speculation, so just make sure you're reading up on market news, make sure you're reading a lot of different opinions from different types of market experts or people who are involved in the market. And I guess, yeah, try to make your decisions that way. That would be my take. I apologize. There was a lot going on in that answer, but I think it's a really nuanced topic. And thank you, Neil, for giving me the opportunity to answer.
So we got a super chat here from Skyhawk. And shout out, first of all, thank you for the super chat, Skyhawk. Neil, thoughts on PLTY and its dividends into the future? So like it's like an options income strategy for Palantir. It's not invested directly. in Palantir. So I think you always have to be a little bit cautious with these. I try to stay. Usually I'm just invested directly in the stock. I sold like if I had enough of Palantir myself, I'd probably. I shouldn't say probably. If I had a large position in Palantir, I'd be selling covered calls right now. And actually, 100%. Like I have a very small amount of Palantir in my portfolio, like very small. Like it's not like I'll be happy if it goes up.
But Sean levels, yeah.
I don't know how much he has.
No, I know. I'm just joking because the Palantir.
I can tell you it's for sure. I'm sure it's not at Sean levels. You know what I mean? Like it's like the kind of stocks that I would sell cover calls and that I have enough shares in that I do it. If things like Eli Lilly is, that's a bigger part of my portfolio. But if I had like 1,000 shares of Palantir, I'd be selling covered calls. I think that's an opportune thing. But something like this trust, I think they can be good vehicles to get yourself a little bit of dividend and exposure to the move. That's a good way to do it because you don't want to put a big position on. And again, and this is sort of the thing. If you want to sell covered calls and not lose your entire position, you have to have more than a few hundred shares in. Like if I want to only get out of 20% of my position if I get called away, then you have to have at least 500 shares. And this is where stock splitting, I think, becomes a bigger deal. Because I think when you get these higher priced names, you want them to split so you have a little more flexibility in your position. It's why Costco gets frustrating for a lot of people as well. Like it's just, like if you're playing here, like assignment it's a lot of money. It's a $1,000 stock. 100 shares is going to be expensive. But you'd like a stock like this to split. Personally, like I said, I would be selling covered calls, and if this thing went to 100, great, and it got called away, I wouldn't care. Or maybe like a 90 or 95, more reasonable. I can't believe, how is it 4:30 already?
I know, right?
First of all, I'm a little surprised it's 4:30 because I kind of felt like time flew a little bit here.
Yeah, it did. We had a lot of good conversations.
And thanks everybody for the questions in the chat. I wanted to just say Palantir is just sort of holding the highs here. MSTR, same thing. We're not expecting any kind of announcement until later. The trading opportunity will come on Monday when these names are or are not included in the NASDAQ 100. Don't add us just because we're letting you know that they might be. There's a lot of momentum already in some of these names, especially Palantir. You could see a sell the news even if they're in. You most certainly could see a pullback if you don't get the announcement that you want. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. But you know what we do next here around this time? It may be Friday, maybe the end of the week. We still got a roll call to do. And before we do a roll call, we got to thank everybody on the team. I want to give a big shout out to Fabian, Ramin, and Andre on our ones and twos, making us look and sound good and doing a great job with our socials. Got to give a big shout out to the midday crew. We had Sharif do half a day.
Yeah.
Today was Joe, Options Joe, and Sataya, the crypto princess herself, doing a fantastic job on the midday. And I have to give a shout out to Adara taking over. You don't even notice that you're doing it instead of Brendan anymore. You don't even notice. So doing a great job, Adara. And I got to give a big thanks to my main man, Sean. He dropped by this morning to pick up the raffle tickets.
We were all so shook.
I'm winning that raffle, by the way.
Nice.
Gia's soccer team, her hockey team, we're all supporting it in a raffle. It's a 50-50, so of course we're going to support the team. And a big shout out to Obi. He fills in for myself, he fills in for Sean, and does a great job doing so. The oh boy count was only 24 today. I
feel like there were more that we
incredibly
missed.
Disappointed.
At one point, I feel like there was an oh boy every 2 minutes. Like, I think between 9:45 and 10:20, I'm pretty sure there was an oh boy in there.
I was counting them. It was 24, everybody. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's thank Bears versus Bulls.
Thank you, Bears versus Bulls.
The best moderator in the business. Thank you for everything that you do, keeping our community on track and making sure to spread the love. So everybody, throw up the ones, throw the names in the chat, give a big shout out and a thank you to a member of the team here. Get your name read off for the last roll call of the week by Adara. Take it away.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Obi. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sharif, Sataya, Joe, Fabian, Ramin, Andre, everybody, or Brendan, everyone I said, everyone who's not here, let's get started here. Bears vs. Bulls, thank you very much for everything you do. We got Phil of the Future, Bora Hout, Surfer Boy 3000, Jay Alvarez, Trend Board, Blue Arrow, PC, Sebastian, Beyond English, Ronaldo. We got Roderick Sims. We have Derek Thompson, Blue Arrow, Hades Trader. I love that one. We have Grubbs, TH, The Realist, Robert Liu, Robert Cabeza, Ali Swifty. We have Sebastian again, your Huckleberry, The Piper, Rolo de Relojes. We have Amahamada, We got Hamad, Harry Lou, Jai Singh, Joseph Birch Music, Frank Hadley. We have The Bright Awakening, Raju Sankar, Enrique Sanchez, Richard Cabezas again, Paul. We have Cactus Jack, I love that one. Sir MM, Marie S. Lyman, Robert Liu again, Amy Jazz, Ryan, Sanity's Eclipse. I'll stop with that. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here with us every single day. But you know what? We'll be back here again at 8:30 a.m. How crazy is that?
That's what we do. And for the record, I still don't see anything for PayPal. I know some people have been asking.
They got to upgrade this morning, but that was this morning. Like I was saying, because Nick W was like, is there anything on it? I said, we did have the upgrade, right? Like that Wolf Research raising its price target here to 106 with a outperform rating. There was also some positive news in that space. We had Affirm. This is also, I think, what lifted SoFi. Affirm getting that 6th Street related collab with the buy now, pay later. We had a price target increase for Upstart as well with an upgrade from Needham. So that whole finance space did really well today as a whole. Is that what's moving?
Well, I mean, the aftermarket, we moved like $3 up and down the aftermarket. I don't know why. There was no story. So the aftermarket move, unexplained for now, at least on PayPal. But you know what? We're going to get to trade all those names. Whether they get added to the NASDAQ 100 or not, there is going to be some crazy action next week. It'll be a wild one. We'll see you all back 8:30 Monday morning. We're traded to you live.
See y'all.
Bye, guys.
Overhead.